High in the snow-covered peaks of Colorado, abandoned ski lodges sit silently, blanketed in frost and shadow. The wind howls through shattered windows and broken doors. Locals speak in hushed tones of chilling cries echoing across the slopes, of lanterns swinging in empty halls, and of figures that appear just out of sight before vanishing. Some of these lodges are not merely abandoned. They are haunted, cursed by tragedies long buried in the snow. Visitors who dare approach feel sudden chills, hear footsteps behind them on snow-packed paths, and some never return. Tonight, we will travel through the Colorado mountains to explore the most haunted abandoned ski lodges, where the past refuses to rest. If you could spend a night in one of these lodges after dark, would you enter the cold halls, or would you turn back while there is still time? Hello, my dear friend. I hope you are safe tonight, because what we are about to explore is not for the faint of heart. Colorado's ski country is famous for its beauty, but hidden among the peaks are lodges abandoned for decades. Some say the snow itself carries whispers of those who once lived and worked inside. Doors creak open in the middle of the night, footsteps echo in empty corridors, and shadows stretch across walls with no one there to cast them. Occasionally, a flickering light appears in a window, though no one has occupied the lodge for years. These buildings seem alive, their walls soaked with the memories of past tragedies. Before we step closer, let me ask you, if you could see a ghostly figure moving along a snow-dusted balcony, would you watch from afar, or would you walk closer, risking the unknown? Take a deep breath, and let us wander into the abandoned ski lodges of Colorado after dark. Frostpine Lodge sits perched on a steep mountainside, its silhouette etched against the ever-changing sky. Once a thriving retreat, it has been abandoned for decades, left to the slow decay of weather and time. The structure is scarred by fire, with charred beams crisscrossing the ceiling and blackened walls that still bear the scent of smoke and loss. With charred beams crisscrossing the ceiling and blackened walls that still bear the scent of smoke and loss. The blackened walls that still bear the scent of smoke and loss. The journey to the lodge begins along a narrow, winding path through dense pine forests. Snow drifts cling to branches even in late spring, creating an ethereal landscape that seems both inviting and foreboding. The air grows thinner as the trail climbs, carrying with it the distant echoes of the past. Travelers speak of a sudden drop in temperature as they approach the lodge, a cold that seeps into bones and slows the pulse. Inside, the main hall stretches wide, its grandeur diminished by the ravages of fire and abandonment. Light filters through broken windows, casting fractured patterns on the floor. The silence is heavy, yet punctuated by faint sounds that seem out of place. Some visitors hear laughter, soft and fleeting, echoing from corners where no one stands. Others report the sound of crying, distant and sorrowful, as if memories of tragedy still linger in the air. The shadows in Frostpine Lodge are restless. Across the burned rafters, figures have been seen moving with deliberate grace, disappearing when looked at directly. They are indistinct, more felt than seen, like impressions left on the fabric of the building itself. Observers often describe a presence that watches, unblinking and patient, yet there is no malevolence, only a quiet insistence that the lodge is not empty. Only a quiet insistence that the lodge is not empty. Footsteps are another persistent phenomenon. The boards creak under invisible weight, and the echoes travel unnaturally long distances, as though the building itself amplifies them. Even in broad daylight, when the surrounding forest is alive with birds and wind, the hallways seem to hold their own soundscape, a rhythm dictated by those who once walked them and perhaps by those who never left. The lodge is layered with history. Personal effects remain scattered in some rooms. Melted or blackened by fire but still recognizable. Photographs cling to walls. Their faces obscured by smoke damage yet their expressions frozen in time. Furniture leans against scorched walls. Warped and fragile. Offering glimpses of the life that once animated this place. Each item carries an echo. A whisper of stories and moments interrupted by sudden catastrophe. Explorers often comment on the atmosphere, a mix of sorrow and fascination that grows stronger with each passing hour. The cold is never merely physical, it feels alive, a force that presses against the skin and slows thought. Air moves strangely through the halls, swirling around corners and through gaps in the ceiling, carrying the subtle scent of pine and charred wood. Even standing still, visitors sense motion, as though the lodge itself breathes, inhaling and exhaling through its broken windows. Windows frame haunting views of the surrounding mountains. Snow-covered peaks rise sharply, jagged and imposing, while valleys below disappear into shadow. Mist often drifts across the slopes, softening the harsh lines of rock and tree. From inside, the light changes constantly, giving the lodge an uncanny quality, as if it exists in a space between moments, frozen yet alive. Many who visit Frostpine Lodge report moments of disorientation. Hallways appear longer than they should, doors lead to rooms that were not there moments before. And stairs creak in patterns that defy expectation. Time feels fluid, slipping between past and present, making it difficult to discern whether what is seen is memory, imagination, or something that persists beyond human understanding. Those who spend nights at the lodge describe a deeper intensity. The darkness thickens, and the familiar cold sharpens into a palpable presence. Shadows lengthen and shift, responding to the smallest movements. Sounds become layered, with whispers, footsteps, and the occasional tapping echoing in complex rhythms. Sleep is uneasy, filled with fleeting impressions of figures standing silently at the edge of vision, watching and waiting without need of action. Frostpine Lodge also holds moments of beauty amidst the unease. Icicles hang from the eaves in winter, catching the early morning sun and scattering light across the floor. Pine needles collect in corners and hallways, releasing subtle fragrances that mingle with the lingering smoke. Even in decay, the lodge retains a haunting elegance, a testament to its past grandeur. Visitors often leave with mixed feelings. There is a sense of awe at the history and resilience of the place, and a lingering unease born from encounters that cannot easily be explained. Memories of the lodge remain vivid, etched into the mind like photographs of a place that exists both in reality and in perception. The cold, the shadows, and the echoes follow them, subtle yet persistent reminders of the lodge's enduring presence. Frostpine Lodge stands as a monument to both loss and mystery. Its burned beams and broken windows tell a story of tragedy. Yet within its walls remains a strange vitality. A sense that the lodge is not merely a structure but a living chronicle of all who have passed through. The trail up the mountainside, the swaying pines. One that lingers long after departure. In the end, Frostpine Lodge is more than a site of historical ruin. It is a space where time and memory converge, where shadows and light interact in complex rhythms, and where those who enter are invited into an ongoing narrative of loss, mystery, and lingering presence. Visitors may hear laughter, footsteps, and soft cries. And they may catch glimpses of figures across burned rafters. But the lodge remains patient and indifferent. A sentinel on the mountainside holding the secrets of decades past. The lodge waits silently for the next visitor to tread its halls, to feel the chill that cannot be explained, and to become a part of its enduring story. The echoes of the past, the shadows of the fire, and the quiet resilience of the building ensure that Frostpine Lodge will remain a place of fascination and mystery for generations to come. Silver Peak Retreat perches atop a windswept mountain ridge, its once grand FAA section Ade now battered by relentless winter storms. Icicles hang like jagged teeth from the eaves, and shattered windows reflect the pale light of the snow-covered peaks. The lodge, once filled with laughter and the warmth of crackling fires, now stands silent, a shell of opulence abandoned to time and ice. Travelers who venture near report an unsettling stillness that presses upon them even before they reach the entrance. The air carries the sharp scent of frost and pine, mixed with the faint, lingering aroma of old wood and smoke. Footsteps on the snow-covered path sometimes echo unexpectedly, as if the lodge itself listens and responds. Inside, the silence is fractured by the smallest of sounds. Doors that should remain closed swing open slowly, moved by no visible hand. The creak of floorboards echoes through empty halls, sometimes in rhythm with the wind outside, other times independently. As if something unseen is pacing along the corridors. Furniture shifts imperceptibly, leaving visitors questioning whether they are imagining the movements or if unseen inhabitants still occupy the rooms. The loggia's architecture encourages exploration, with narrow staircases, long hallways, and balconies overlooking the steep mountainsides. On some nights, figures appear near the balconies, outlined against the moonlit peaks. They stand motionless, gazing into the distance, their presence both captivating and terrifying. When approached, the figures vanish without a trace, leaving only the biting cold and the faint echo of movement. Whispers seem to travel with the wind, curling through open windows and broken doors. They are faint, unintelligible, yet persistent. Some visitors describe fragments of conversation, a fleeting name, or the sound of laughter that vanishes before it is fully heard. The phenomenon leaves a lasting impression, the sensation of being observed by those who are no longer of the living world. The main lodge area, once a gathering place for skiers and travelers, feels particularly alive with these subtle disturbances. Chandeliers sway gently despite the absence of drafts, and the fireplaces emit faint warmth as if the embers of past fires continue to smolder. Shadows stretch across the walls, sometimes forming shapes that resemble people who once walked these halls. Visitors have reported glimpsing them from the corner of their eyes, only to find the space empty upon turning. Silver Peak's surrounding landscape adds to its enigmatic presence. Snow-laden pines sway under the weight of ice, and the mountain peaks are often shrouded in mist, giving the lodge an isolated, almost ethereal quality. Sounds from the forest echo oddly, distorted by the valley below, creating a sense that the wilderness itself communicates with the retreat. Travelers often find it difficult to distinguish between natural noises and the unexplained movements inside the lodge. At night, the lodge transforms. The moon casts cold light through the broken windows, illuminating icy corridors and dust-covered furniture. Every creak and sigh of the old building is amplified, and the occasional flicker of a shadow can set the imagination racing. Guests have described a profound feeling of being watched, a sensation that lingers even when they leave the premises. The mountain winds seem to carry the loggia's secrets far beyond its walls, whispering them to anyone who dares approach. Those who have stayed, even briefly, speak of an indescribable pull, an allure that draws them deeper into the building despite the chill and unease. Each room holds remnants of the pasta scattered ski equipment, old photographs, and furniture frozen in mid-use. The juxtaposition of decay and preserved elegance adds to the haunting ambience, creating a space where history feels alive and memories cling to the walls. Silver Peak Retreat is a place where time seems suspended. The natural beauty of its mountain setting contrasts sharply with the unnatural occurrences within. Travelers leave with vivid memories of empty halls, fleeting figures, and sounds that defy explanation. The lodge stands as a testament to human aspiration, now intertwined with something beyond understanding. Even in daylight, the retreat carries an aura of mystery. The broken windows catch the sun at odd angles, casting fractured patterns across the snow. Shadows that appear during the day often hint at the figures seen at night. Visitors report a lingering sense of presence, an awareness that they are not entirely alone, even when the lodge is empty. Silver Peak Retreat remains a destination for those drawn to both history and the unexplained. Its grandeur and isolation create the perfect stage for the inexplicable. The lodge endures as a silent witness to the passage of time. Its walls echoing stories of those who once sought solace on its slopes. And the lingering presence that continues to watch over the peaks. Whispering Pines Chalet sits nestled among tall, ancient pines, their branches swaying gently even when the air is still. The lodge itself is sturdy, built from dark timber and stone, blending seamlessly with the forest that surrounds it. Yet, despite its appearance of solidity and warmth, an unsettling presence clings to the building, subtle but persistent, like a pulse running just beneath the surface. Visitors often speak of the whispers first. They drift in from the forest, barely audible at first, as though the pines themselves are conversing. The sound moves with the wind, curling around corners, passing through open windows, and sliding under doors. Words are indistinct, but some swear they can hear their names, spoken softly, almost as if the forest has taken note of every arrival. Inside the chalet, the air grows cool, even in the warmth of a roaring fire. Drafts snake through the hallways, shifting curtains and brushing against the skin of those who wander its corridors. The sensation is fleeting yet undeniable, a silent acknowledgement that the lodge is not empty, that unseen observers share the space with the living. Shadows seem to behave unusually. They linger longer than they should, stretching along walls or pooling in corners. Even when light sources are steady and unmoving, the shapes flicker as if alive, sometimes converging in one place before dissipating. Guests have reported glimpsing figures standing near doorways or by windows, only to vanish when approached. The lodge's architecture, with its long halls and angled staircases, amplifies this sense of displacement, creating an atmosphere where perception and reality blur. Footsteps echo through the chalet at odd times, often when no one is moving. A slow shuffle along the hall, a tap on the wooden floor, or a soft scraping from the stairs can break the silence unexpectedly. Guests are startled to find no one there when they investigate, yet the sounds persist, as though the building itself remembers the passage of those who once walked its floors. Some rooms hold particular notoriety. Guests report hearing names called from empty spaces. Voices so soft they almost require leaning in to hear. The calls feel intimate, personal, and yet completely detached from the physical presence of another person. It is as though the walls retain echoes from the past, lingering just long enough to reach the ears of the present. The surrounding forest seems complicit in the loggia's mysteries. Branches creak in rhythm with footsteps inside. And the wind carries whispers through the pines, blending indistinguishably with sounds from within. At times, the line between the interior and exterior blurs, making it impossible to determine if the noises originate from the hallways or from the shadows beyond the windows. Even during daylight, the atmosphere retains its weight. Light filters through the canopy unevenly, casting irregular patterns on the floors and walls. The chalet appears almost alive, its angles and corners shifting in perception, as if responding to the observer's gaze. Guests report feelings of being watched, a subtle tension that follows them from room to room, never overt but always present. At night, the lodge transforms. The forest darkens into a dense mass of shapes and movement. Shadows deepen, and the whispers grow more pronounced, curling around the hallways and nesting in corners. Visitors describe sudden chills, the air shifting as if unseen hands pass close by. It is during these hours that the full sense of the chalet's presence becomes apparent, the feeling that every step taken is observed by entities both within and beyond the walls. Despite these unsettling experiences, the lodge exudes a strange allure. Its warmth, the crackle of the fireplace, and the scent of pine mingling with wood smoke create a comfort that coexists uneasily with the pervasive sense of mystery. Guests find themselves drawn to the windows, listening to the whispers drifting through the pines, or wandering the hallways to explore the origins of the soft taps and brushes of unseen hands. Those who spend time within Whispering Pines Chalet often leave with lingering impressions that defy simple explanation. The feeling of being observed, the whispers echoing in the hallways, the fleeting glimpses of shadows, and the cool drafts that seem to follow without source. All combine to create an experience that is haunting yet captivating. The lodge maintains its secrets with a quiet vigilance, allowing only glimpses to those who are attentive and receptive to its presence. Whispering Pines Chalet is more than a building. It is an environment shaped by memory, presence, and mystery. It is a place where the forest itself seems to reach inside. Where the past lingers in the hallways and corners. And where the senses are heightened, drawing attention to every subtle movement and sound. Those who visit carry the impression of an intimate awareness that the lodge possesses. A consciousness that is at once enigmatic and quietly insistent. The whispers fade as guests depart, carried back into the pines with the wind. Shadows retreat into the corners, leaving the halls seemingly empty. Yet the memory of their presence endures. The cool drafts and sudden chills remain in recollection, as does the subtle feeling of unseen eyes following each step. Whispering Pines Chalet preserves its mysteries with patient diligence, inviting those who enter to witness its secrets, to feel its presence, and to leave with a sense of awe and lingering wonder. Even after leaving the lodge, the impressions remain vivid. The whispers, the shadows, the brushes of invisible hands, and the sense of attentive observation linger in memory. Whispering Pines Chalet is a place where reality bends subtly around the edges. Where the forest and the building converge. And where each visitor carries with them a story shaped by its persistent, enigmatic presence. Blackridge Lodge perches precariously at the edge of a jagged cliff. Where the wind sweeps down from the mountains with relentless force. The lodge is framed by towering pines, their needles whispering in the gusts. As clouds gather and break across the sky. The terrain is treacherous, a landscape of steep slopes and hidden crevices. Where snow can appear suddenly even when the sun lingers overhead. Visitors speak of the lodge with a mixture of awe and unease. At night, the windows glow with a soft, flickering light. Some have reported seeing silhouettes moving inside. The shadows are always fleeting, yet they leave a lasting impression. As though the lodge itself holds memories of those long gone. The air around Blackridge Lodge carries a chill that seeps through even the thickest clothing. Travelers recount sudden shifts in temperature, icy gusts that seem to pass through walls and doors, brushing against skin like invisible fingers. In the corridors, footsteps echo unevenly, sometimes seeming to follow visitors even when no one else is present. The lodge becomes a labyrinth of perception, where each creak and moan of timber invite speculation and caution. Storms are frequent and unpredictable. One moment, the sky is clear, revealing the jagged outline of the cliff and the frozen slopes below. Moments later, clouds descend, obscuring the landscape, and the wind intensifies, carrying with it the faint roar of avalanches that are not there. The sound is deep and resonant, vibrating through the floors and walls, creating a sense of danger that is impossible to dismiss. Skiers who venture near the edge of the cliff speak of disappearing tracks. Trails in the snow that once led toward safety vanish as if swallowed by the mountain. Others recount glimpsing figures in the distance, moving with unnatural speed, yet they fade before the eye can focus. These incidents contribute to the loggia's reputation, drawing both the curious and the cautious. Inside, the lodge is a maze of warm wood and low lighting, contrasting sharply with the harshness outside. Patrons report cold spots that appear without warning, areas where the temperature drops suddenly and inexplicably. Some have described sensations of hands brushing against them, icy and insistent, when no one else is around. The feeling lingers, a subtle reminder that Blackridge Lodge is a place where the ordinary rules of reality can be questioned. The lodge has a history intertwined with the mountainous dangers. Tales of sudden snowstorms, lost travelers, and eerie phenomena are as old as the building itself. Staff members speak in hushed tones of occurrences they have witnessed but cannot explain, from moving objects to whispers carried on the wind. These stories feed into the atmosphere of the lodge, creating a sense of living history, a place where the past lingers in every hallway and every shadowed corner. Nightfall brings its own mysteries. The cliffs disappear into darkness, the edge uncertain and obscured. Windows glow, yet the figures inside are indistinct, as if trapped between moments. Guests often hear distant roars, the sound of avalanches, the wind tearing across the mountains, and yet the landscape outside remains calm and undisturbed. This dissonance between perception and reality heightens the sense of tension, as if the lodge exists on the boundary between the known and the unknown. Even during the day, the lodge maintains its enigmatic presence. Visitors moving along the paths find the mist thickening unexpectedly, limiting visibility and distorting shapes. A distant figure on a slope may vanish entirely within seconds, leaving no trace behind. Every step becomes an exercise in vigilance, where the ordinary sense of safety is replaced by a careful awareness of the surroundings. Despite the unsettling experiences, travelers return to Blackridge Lodge, drawn by the Mountaina's beauty and the Loggia's remote charm. The contrast between breathtaking landscapes and subtle terror creates a unique atmosphere. A place where human curiosity meets naturia's unpredictability. The lodge is more than a building, it is a threshold, a space where stories accumulate. And where each visitor becomes part of its ongoing history. Those who leave the lodge carry its impressions with them. The echo of footsteps, the fleeting shadows in windows. And the roar of unseen avalanches linger in memory long after the journey ends. Blackridge Lodge remains perched on the cliff, silent yet alive. A sentinel of the Mountaina's edge, holding secrets. And inviting exploration. While reminding all who enter of the Mountaina's enduring mysteries. Moonfall Chalet rests quietly in a secluded valley, where snow blankets the ground and glows with a silver hue under the steady light of the moon. Where snow blankets the ground and glows with a silver hue under the steady light of the moon. And pine trees surround the lodge, their branches heavy with frost, creating a natural barrier that separates it from the world beyond. Creating a natural barrier that separates it from the world beyond. The air is crisp and still, carrying the faint scent of pine and ice, and the soft crunch of footsteps on fresh snow seems to echo endlessly. And the soft crunch of footsteps on fresh snow seems to echo endlessly. Approaching the chalet, visitors often feel a mixture of awe and unease. The building is grand, with towering windows and steeply pitched roofs that glimmer under the moonlight. Yet there is an emptiness to it, a quiet that is almost tangible. Windows reflect the pale light, but the interior remains dark, concealing secrets and shadows that seem to move independently of any living presence. Inside, the grand ballroom stretches wide, its ornate chandeliers long extinguished. Yet faint strains of music are reported by those who venture near. The melody is soft, delicate, as if played by invisible hands. Drifting through the air with an ethereal quality. No instruments are found, and the lodge has no power, yet the music persists. Lingering and fading with irregular rhythm. Guiding visitors deeper into the space. Figures are often glimpsed across the polished floors. They glide silently, their movements fluid and precise, vanishing into walls or behind columns as quickly as they appear. Observers report a sense of being watched, though the figures make no sound and offer no confrontation. The sensation of time inside Moonfall Chalet is deceptive. Moments can stretch into hours, and hours sometimes slip by unnoticed. Visitors describe entering a room and suddenly realizing that far more time has passed than they anticipated. Days may elapse in what feels like minutes, leaving them disoriented when they finally find an exit. The lodge seems to bend perception, creating a space where the familiar rules of time and sequence no longer fully apply. The lodge itself is layered with history. Wooden beams creak with age, and frosted windows reveal glimpses of the snowy valley beyond. Fireplaces stand cold and empty, though soot stains suggest long unused warmth. Furniture remains scattered throughout the rooms, worn yet intact, as if waiting for a presence that never returns. These objects are silent witnesses to the activities within, their stillness contrasting with the fleeting movements of the spectral figures. Hallways twist and turn in unexpected ways. Doors may lead to familiar spaces, yet occasionally open into entirely different rooms. Shadows pool in corners, shifting subtly with the passage of any person moving through the lodge. The floors reflect the moonlight streaming in from outside, creating mirrored surfaces that amplify the sense of disorientation and uncertainty. Visitors often note subtle changes in temperature, a cold that is sharper in some rooms, a warmth that lingers in others. The air feels alive, moving softly as if breathing along with the lodge itself. Sounds carry differently here, with whispers and footsteps resonating in unpredictable patterns. Even silence becomes a presence, heavy and watchful, pressing on the senses and heightening awareness of every small movement. Some who spend extended time in Moonfall Chalet report seeing fleeting glimpses of faces in the shadows. These faces are indistinct, emerging briefly from corners or behind furniture, vanishing before they can be fully recognized. There is no hostility in these appearances, only an impression of being observed by forces that exist beyond normal perception. The exterior of the chalet is equally enigmatic. Moonlight reflects off the snow and glass, creating the impression of a structure that is both solid and unreal. The surrounding forest amplifies the isolation, with branches swaying in the wind producing soft, ghostly sounds. Animals are rarely seen, adding to the sense that the chalet exists in a space removed from ordinary life, where natural rules are suspended. Visitors report moments of clarity amidst the strangeness. Walking through the halls, the grandeur of the lodge becomes evident. Intricate woodwork lines the ceilings, delicate carvings mark doorframes, and the large windows frame the moonlit valley in stark beauty. Intricate woodwork lines the ceilings, delicate carvings mark doorframes, and the large windows frame the moonlit valley in stark beauty. These details provide glimpses of the craftsmanship and care that once brought life to the chalet, contrasting with the spectral phenomena now experienced. These details provide glimpses of the craftsmanship and care that once brought life to the chalet, contrasting with the spectral phenomena now experienced. Encounters with the figures are varied. Some are curious, moving slowly to observe the visitor. Others vanish immediately, leaving only the impression of motion in empty space. The music, faint and disembodied, often rises and falls in tempo, sometimes coinciding with the appearance of these figures, creating an immersive experience, where sound, shadow, and space are intertwined. Time inside the lodge is further complicated by the way doors and windows interact with perception. Openings may reveal views that seem inconsistent with the geography outside, and hallways can extend farther than physically possible. Visitors often lose track of direction, needing to retrace steps multiple times before finding a path that leads outward. Despite the unsettling qualities, there is a compelling beauty to Moonfall Chalet. The interplay of moonlight, snow, and shadow produces a serene yet haunting atmosphere. The loggia's architecture, once a testament to human design and care, now blends with supernatural elements, creating a space that is both tangible and elusive. Exiting the lodge, visitors are often left with lingering sensations. The cold air outside feels less biting, yet memories of music, figures, and distorted time persist. The valley and forest appear unchanged, yet those who leave carry with them the impression that a part of the chalet remains embedded in perception. Moonfall Chalet remains an enduring enigma, a place where time bends, shadows glide silently, and music floats through empty halls. The loggia's presence, both beautiful and unnerving, invites exploration and reflection, leaving all who enter with a story that resonates long after they return to the ordinary world. It is a location that challenges understanding and imagination, a valley where moonlight and mystery converge. Icevale Lodge stands alone atop a jagged ridge, where the mountains meet the sky and storms batter the landscape with unrelenting force. The lodge's weathered timber and stone walls groan under the weight of winter, echoing through the mountains like the sighs of a long-forgotten past. Travelers who venture near speak of a profound stillness that dominates the ridge, broken only by the howl of the wind. The air carries whispers that seem to drift from the lodge itself, voices that speak in fragmented tones, like memories clinging to the icy walls. Some describe hearing names called out softly, whispers of lost guests who never left, whose presence lingers despite the years of abandonment. Inside, the lodge appears frozen in time. Snow drifts through cracks in the roof and windows, dusting the polished wood floors and antique furnishings in a thin layer of frost. Footprints appear in the snow along the hallways and staircases, small and deliberate, yet no living person has entered for decades. They lead to the balcony, to empty rooms, and then disappear without explanation, leaving a sense of presence without a body. The balcony itself has become the stage for some of the most unsettling experiences. Figures are reported to appear in the moonlight, their forms pale and translucent. Their faces hollow and eyes that seem to look directly into the soul. They stand silently, as if waiting for something that will never arrive. Before fading into the cold night air. The wind whistles around the eaves. And sometimes those who witness these apparitions feel a sudden inexplicable chill that lingers long after the figures vanish. The loggia's interior holds echoes of life that once filled it. Long tables, now coated in frost, seem ready for a gathering that will never occur. Chairs are arranged as though awaiting guests, and the faint scent of wood smoke can sometimes be detected, though no fire has burned in the hearths for years. Floorboards creak beneath invisible weight, and the soft sound of movement passes along hallways empty of life. Each room seems to tell a story. Curtains flutter despite the absence of wind. Mirrors reflect shadows that do not match any visitor. And chandeliers sway gently, catching the weak light of the snow-filtered sun. Some who have explored the lodge describe a sensation of being watched. An awareness that the loggia's history is alive in a way that cannot be explained. The longer one remains inside, the heavier the presence feels, pressing against the mind and urging a cautious retreat. Outside, the mountains and the sky seem to amplify the loggia's eerie presence. Snowstorms arrive without warning, their fury intensified by the high ridge, and visibility can drop to mere feet in moments. Travelers recount hearing voices carried on the wind, and the fleeting glimpse of forms disappearing into the storm. It is a place where nature and the unexplained converge, making every approach both dangerous and unforgettable. At night, the lodge transforms into a spectral world. Moonlight reflects off icy surfaces, casting long shadows that stretch and twist along hallways and staircases. Figures appear near the balconies and windows, glimpsed only from the corner of the eye. Sometimes they are staring down the mountainside, other times moving through the loggia's corridors, always present, always just beyond reach. Guests report a paralyzing feeling, the sense that time itself slows, leaving them suspended in the loggia's haunting atmosphere. Despite the desolation, Icevale Lodge holds a compelling allure. It draws those seeking history, mystery, and the unexplained. Every broken window, every groaning floorboard, and every echo of movement contributes to a narrative of isolation, memory, and lingering spirits. The lodge's story is etched into the very stones and timbers, a testament to the lives that once filled it and to the mysterious presence that endures. Even during daylight, the lodge retains its ominous beauty. Snow and ice catch the sun's rays, sparkling like frost-bound crystals. While the loggia's exposure emphasizes the loggia's vulnerability and solitude. Shadows appear to shift with the movement of the clouds. And the wind carries faint murmurs that vanish as quickly as they arrive. Visitors leave with a deep impression, a mixture of awe, fear, and curiosity. Forever marked by their encounter with Icevale Lodge. The lodge remains a sentinel over the ridge. A place where the natural and the supernatural intertwine. Its empty halls, icy floors, and spectral visitors tell a story that cannot be fully comprehended, only experienced. Those who approach find themselves enveloped in the lodge's mysteries. Witnesses to a lingering presence that continues to watch over the mountains, the ridge, and the enduring silence of Icevale Lodge. Shadow Peak Inn sits perched on a windswept ridge, its timbered walls weathered by decades of snow, ice, and relentless winter storms. The building, abandoned for as long as local memory can reach, carries the weight of countless winters and the tragedies of those who sought refuge within its walls. Even in daylight, the inn casts a long, haunting shadow over the snow-covered landscape, a silent monument to its storied past. Visitors who approach the inn often notice a chill that has little to do with the weather. The air grows heavy as they near the entrance, carrying a subtle scent of frost and wood smoke, as if the building itself exhales memories trapped in its timbers. Once inside, the atmosphere thickens, and an unsettling awareness of unseen presences takes hold. Footsteps echo on creaking floorboards, though no one else is in the halls. Doors close abruptly behind wandering visitors, as if guided by unseen hands. Some feel light tugs on their coats, a subtle reminder that the inn remembers all who enter. The sensations are fleeting yet unmistakable, leaving a lingering tension that settles deep within the chest. Rooms once filled with warmth and laughter now lie silent, dust gathering in thick layers on furniture and window sills. Despite the absence of life, whispers sometimes fill the air, soft, desperate, and carrying the weight of someone trapped in a frozen moment. Travelers report hearing faint cries for help, voices straining against invisible walls, sounding as though they emerge from the very heart of the building. The inn's staircases seem alive with memory. Steps creak under weight that is never seen, and landings occasionally echo with the sound of hurried movement. Even the bravest visitor cannot escape the sensation that someone is watching. Pacing above, waiting, or retracing steps long forgotten. The air in the hallways carries a damp cold that clings to the skin, reminding all who walk these corridors that this is a place where time and memory linger together in uneasy balance. Windows, frosted and streaked, provide views of snow-laden slopes where the wind howls relentlessly. Shadows stretch and twist across the floor, distorted by the pale light of a winter sun. Some claim to see figures in old-fashioned clothing, standing at the edges of rooms, gazing outward as though watching for the arrival of those long lost. Their presence is fleeting, dissolving when approached, leaving only a trace of cold and the lingering impression of something unseen. The dining hall, once a place of communal warmth, now exudes an eerie emptiness. Chairs sit pushed back unevenly, and the echoes of long-past laughter seem to hang in the corners. Footsteps circle the room at unpredictable intervals, and the faint scrape of a chair on wooden floors can startle those who believe they are alone. Every sound, every movement, seems magnified by the inn's empty spaces, amplifying the sense of watching eyes and untold stories. Nightfall transforms Shadow Peak Inn into a realm where the natural and the spectral converge. The wind outside batters the walls and rattles windows, carrying with it faint cries and muffled thuds. Shadows stretch and lengthen unnaturally, dancing along the walls in rhythm with the storm. The faint glow of moonlight through frosted glass illuminates figures that are never there moments later, leaving the mind to question what is real and what is memory. Visitors who linger overnight report unsettling experiences. A room that seemed empty seconds ago may suddenly feel occupied, with a pressure in the air as if someone has drawn near. Whispers persist, carrying fragments of names and pleas that are almost intelligible, but never entirely clear. The chill seems to move with purpose, brushing across the neck, tugging lightly at garments, tracing along the spine with a deliberate, ghostly presence. Despite the fear and unease, Shadow Peak Inn holds an undeniable allure. Its history, its isolation, and the mysteries contained within its walls beckon the curious. Explorers walk the halls with a heightened awareness, attuned to the subtle movements and sounds that others might dismiss. The building rewards attention with fleeting glimpses, soft echoes, and the feeling of witnessing moments long past. By morning, the storm may have passed, leaving the inn quiet once more. Sunlight illuminates frost-laced windows and snowdrifts along the ridge, but the sense of presence does not fully dissipate. The echoes of footsteps, the whispers carried on the wind, and the subtle tugs on clothing remain in memory, a quiet testimony to the lives and spirits bound to this place. Shadow Peak Inn is more than a structure. It is a repository of winter, loss, and lingering memory. A place where the past reaches into the present with gentle insistence. Each visitor carries with them a story of frozen halls, unseen watchers, and whispers in the night. The inn guards its secrets with a patient stillness, inviting those who enter to witness the remnants of tragedy and the spectral traces of those who never left. Even as travelers leave the ridge, the impressions remain vivid. The cold lingers in thought. Footsteps echo in memory. And whispers drift like wine through the mind. Shadow Peak Inn endures as a place of quiet mystery. A testament to history etched in wood and frost. And a sanctuary for the stories and spirits that continue to inhabit its abandoned halls. Frostbite Chalet sits abandoned among snow-laden peaks, its once lively slopes now silent and overgrown with frost. The wooden structure creaks under the weight of years without care. And the wind whistles through broken windows, carrying with it the sharp scent of cold that bites at skin and bone. The mountain air feels different here, charged with a presence both unseen and deeply felt. Guests who venture near speak of cold drafts that burn unexpectedly, sweeping through corridors and across rooms as if the chalet itself exhales icy breath. Even in the sunlit daytime, shadows stretch unnaturally along the floors, moving independently of the fading light. Some visitors have paused mid-step, feeling the sting of freezing air against their faces, convinced they are not alone. Windows that look out over the slopes hold secrets of their own. Figures have been glimpsed standing motionless behind frosted glass, watching silently. Their forms are obscured by condensation and shadows. They vanish when approached, leaving only the lingering sense of observation. The sensation is disquieting, a feeling that somenia or something remains aware of every movement within the chalet. Inside, the halls are lined with remnants of a vibrant past. Rusting ski racks, cracked chairs, and faded posters speak of laughter and cheer now long gone. Yet among these remnants, the air carries more than history. Guests report feeling their breath freeze as shadows pass through the hallways, intangible yet weighted with presence. The sound of distant footsteps echoes off the walls, though no one is there. And doors sometimes swing open with no wind to push them. The loggia's upper floors hold rooms that seem untouched by time. Old beds sag under the weight of years. And dusty curtains sway as if stirred by invisible hands. Visitors describe the sensation of being watched. A gaze that moves with them. Lingering at the edge of perception. Every creak of timber seems amplified. Every whisper of snow against the eaves seems amplified, reminding those inside that the chalet is not empty in the way a building normally is. Outside, the landscape mirrors the building's isolation. Steep slopes stretch toward jagged peaks. And the snow crunches unevenly beneath footsteps. Mist rises from the trees, curling around the chalet and obscuring paths once familiar. Travelers have spoken of shadows moving among the pines. Figures gliding just beyond sight, leaving no footprints yet felt in the peripheral vision. Even the wind seems to carry voices, murmuring words indistinct and unintelligible. As though the mountain itself remembers the Kalida's past. Night brings its own layer of tension. The temperature drops so rapidly that the very air seems to freeze. And the sound of ice cracking under imagined weight punctuates the darkness. And shadows that move independently, retreating when approached. The history of Frostbite Chalet is as chilling as its environment. Once a celebrated ski resort, it drew crowds from across the region, alive with music, warmth, and the scent of fires burning in stone hearths. A series of unfortunate events led to its abandonment, leaving the building to succumb to the elements. Yet in its decay, it has become a place of spectral memory, where the echo of past life lingers, tangible in ways that defy explanation. Those who explore the chalet often recount feelings of isolation that transcend physical remoteness. Time seems to stretch and warp, minutes elongating in empty halls while the outside world remains constant. The sensation of being followed, of someone just behind or beside them, never fully disappears. Each room holds its own peculiar energy, a resonance that amplifies fear, curiosity, and fascination in equal measure. Despite the chill and the disquieting phenomena, Frostbite Chalet draws explorers, historians, and the curious alike. Its combination of natural beauty, historical significance, and eerie presence creates an atmosphere unmatched by any ordinary abandoned building. Snow drifts across its steps, icicles hang like jagged teeth from the eaves, and the wind moves with deliberate unpredictability, ensuring that no visit is ever quite the same. When leaving, visitors carry a sense of reverence mixed with unease. The memory of frozen corridors, watching figures, and whispers in the wind lingers long after the last step away from the lodge. Frostbite Chalet remains perched among the peaks, a monument to both human ambition and Naturia's relentless passage. Its silent halls and frozen slopes are a reminder that some places hold on to their stories, their echoes, and their shadows, inviting those who come close to witness the delicate boundary between history and haunting. Avalanche Lodge stands precariously on the edge of a steep mountainside, surrounded by peaks that glisten white under the sun. Snowfields stretch endlessly, and the wind carries a sharp, icy bite that penetrates even the thickest layers of clothing. The lodge itself is a sturdy structure of weathered wood and stone, yet despite its appearance, it carries an air of unease that travelers immediately sense upon arrival. Inside, the corridors are long and narrow, lined with heavy wooden beams and faded wallpaper. Even in the quietest moments, the faint sound of snow shifting down the mountainside can be heard, though the weather outside may be clear and still. The noise rises and falls like a distant rumble, a reminder of the ever-present danger beyond the loggia's walls. Visitors report seeing ghostly figures moving through the halls. They are indistinct, often appearing as pale shapes at the edge of vision. Some point toward the cliffs as if warning of unseen hazards. Others simply glide silently from room to room, vanishing into walls and corners. These figures do not speak, but their presence is felt, a subtle pressure on the senses. That makes every step forward tentative and cautious. The lodge seems to have a life of its own. Doors may appear slightly shifted, hallways that were familiar moments ago feel longer or narrower. And windows occasionally reveal views of the mountains that differ from reality. Some guests swear the building itself moves subtly when no one is watching, tilting slightly or creaking in ways that cannot be explained by wind or settling. This phenomenon adds to the sense of disorientation, making it difficult to trust what is seen and felt inside the lodge. Snow and ice shape the lodge's atmosphere. Frost forms along windowsills. The chill of the air feels unnatural, even near the fireplaces. Shadows from the beams stretch long across the floors, shifting with the flicker of candlelight or the sun as it rises and falls. These shadows sometimes seem to take on forms, stretching into shapes reminiscent of figures moving quietly through the rooms. Travelers describe moments where the lodge feels entirely separate from time. Minutes can stretch into hours, and moments of stillness can feel endless. A walk down a familiar corridor may reveal subtle changes. A painting slightly tilted, a chair moved, or footprints appearing in the snow near entrances that no one has crossed. The interplay of natural and supernatural elements creates an environment where perception is constantly challenged. In the common areas, long tables and rustic furniture remain covered in a thin layer of dust. Curtains hang heavy and stiff, yet the faint outline of movement is sometimes visible behind them. Chairs might rock slowly as if pushed by unseen hands. The faint scent of wood smoke lingers, though no fire burns. The loggia's rooms echo with the quiet hum of isolation, reinforcing the sense that something beyond human comprehension resides within its walls. The exterior environment is equally foreboding. Snowfields shimmer under the sun, but shadows linger in gullies and along cliffsides. Trees bend under the weight of ice, creaking and groaning in ways that mimic human voices. Avalanches can strike without warning, their distant rumbles audible even on the calmest days. This constant presence of potential disaster heightens the tension within the lodge, creating a perpetual feeling of vulnerability. The ghostly figures observed by visitors often interact with the environment in subtle ways. A figure may point toward a snow-laden slope, pause near a doorway, or vanish as one approaches. They are never threatening, yet their appearance evokes deep unease, a reminder that the mountains carry both natural danger and spectral mystery. The lodge acts as a bridge between the living and unseen, a place where the boundaries of reality are tested by isolation, history, and the persistent presence of the unknown. Even in daylight, the lodge exudes an aura of suspense. Sounds travel oddly, footsteps echoing when no one else is present, doors creaking without wind, and distant snow slides resonating like ghostly warnings from the mountains. The architecture of Avalanche Lodge adds to its enigmatic presence. Stone fireplaces are cold and cracked, supporting mantels that are intricately carved yet weathered by time. Staircases twist with unexpected angles. And balconies overlooking cliffs provide breathtaking views that are also deeply unnerving. The design appears deliberate, emphasizing both grandeur and isolation. Yet it also creates spaces where shadows and phenomena can manifest unnoticed. Many visitors speak of a surreal awareness within the lodge, a heightened sensitivity to the environment. Every creak, shift of wind, and subtle change in light is amplified. This awareness contributes to the feeling that the lodge itself is observing, responding, and subtly altering to maintain its aura of mystery. Guests often leave with memories that blend the tangible with the ethereal, unsure whether what they experienced was real or imagined. Evenings bring a particular intensity. Darkness falls quickly, and the loggia's interior transforms under minimal light. Shadows grow and merge, footsteps sound louder, and the faint rumble of distant avalanches punctuates the silence. The cold becomes more penetrating, pressing against skin and clothing, and the spectral figures appear more vividly. Some guests report the sensation of being guided or watched as they move through corridors, the lodge revealing its secrets in fleeting glimpses. Avalanche Lodge remains a compelling enigma, drawing travelers with the allure of danger, history, and the unexplained. It is a place where snow, shadow, and structure intersect, producing experiences that linger long after visitors depart. The combination of spectral figures, shifting architecture, and the ever-present threat of avalanches ensures that every visit is unique, immersive, and unforgettable. Ultimately, Avalanche Lodge is more than a building. It is a threshold between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Time, perception, and reality intertwine within its walls. Every creak, shadow, and chill serves as a reminder that the lodge is alive in its own mysterious way. A place where the mountains hold both memory and spirit, inviting those who enter to witness and navigate a world suspended between the known and the unseen. Pinecrest Retreat sits perched on the edge of a dense forest, its wooden beams weathered and softened by time. The air carries the scent of pine and damp earth, mingling with a silence that feels alive. The forest stretches endlessly below, a tangle of shadows and rustling leaves where hikers have vanished without a trace. Paths that once promised adventure now feel treacherous, as if the woods themselves are guarding secrets best left undiscovered. Visitors often describe the retreat as welcoming at first. The exterior, with its rustic charm, hints at warmth and comfort. Yet the moment one crosses the threshold, the atmosphere shifts. The hallways echo with sounds that have no source, footsteps tracing along the polished floors when no one else is present. A faint laughter drifts from the rooms above, the high-pitched voices of children playing, though the hallways are empty and the doors firmly shut. Shadows cling to the corners, moving along the walls like living smoke. They stretch and curl, forming shapes that vanish when directly observed. Some say the shadows are curious, watching those who enter, reacting to their presence with subtle gestures of awareness. Others feel a weight upon their shoulders, a sensation of being guided, nudged toward places they cannot see, as though unseen hands steer them through the retreat. The rooms of Pinecrest Retreat carry echoes of the past. Furniture sits slightly askew, as if recently used. Chairs creak softly, and doors open on their own, revealing empty spaces that seem to pulse with unseen energy. Guests often note the sudden chill that lingers in certain corners, a cold that seeps through jackets and coats, settling into the bones and stirring an unshakable awareness that they are not alone. Windows frame the forest beyond, and during the day, sunlight filters through the trees, casting long shadows across the floors. Yet even in daylight, there is an uncanny quality to the light. It seems to flicker and bend, illuminating figures that vanish when approached. The forest beyond holds its own mysteries, with trails that appear familiar but shift when followed. Hikers report glimpses of movement between the trees, shapes that are neither human nor animal, yet undeniably present. The retreat itself seems to respond to the presence of visitors. Hallways constrict and widen, depending on where one walks. Steps echo differently in separate areas, and the laughter of children grows louder or fades to whispers depending on the room. Some who have stayed overnight recount waking to find chairs pulled away from tables, or personal items rearranged as if to signal attention. The phenomenon is subtle but persistent, leaving a sense of connection to something unseen, something both protective and watchful. At night, Pinecrest Retreat takes on a more intense character. The wind carries faint murmurs that echo through the trees. Guests report hearing conversations in voices that are not their own, fragments of stories and forgotten memories drifting along the hallways. The laughter of children becomes intermittent, a haunting melody that seems to follow those who wander too far from the center of the building. The shadows become more pronounced at night, stretching across walls and floors in shapes that seem almost tangible. Figures may appear near windows or along the corridors, lingering just beyond reach before vanishing into thin air. Some visitors describe the sensation of being watched, an awareness that extends beyond sight, a presence that follows and observes even when no figure is visible. The feeling is heavy yet strangely compelling, as if the retreat itself is inviting discovery while warning against intrusion. The forest surrounding Pinecrest Retreat plays its own role in the experience. The wind carries strange scents and fleeting sounds, distant laughter or the snap of twigs, yet no living creature is ever found upon investigation. Those who wander into the forest may feel the brush of unseen hands or a subtle guidance along the trails, a nudge that both intrigues and unnerves. Pinecrest Retreat is a place where the boundary between the natural and the supernatural is thin. The forest, the building, and the lingering presences combine to create an environment that is as mysterious as it is atmospheric. Guests leave with memories that linger long after departure, carrying with them the echo of laughter, the brush of shadows, and the sensation of unseen eyes watching over them. Every step through Pinecrest Retreat tells a story, one written in the creaking of floorboards, the shifting of shadows, and the soft, guiding pressure of invisible hands. The creaking of floorboards. The shifting of shadows. And the soft, guiding pressure of invisible hands. Pinecrest Retreat remains, perched above the forest, a sentinel over the unknown. It calls to those who seek the extraordinary, offering glimpses of a reality that teeters on the edge of perception. Visitors may come for the beauty of the surroundings, the retreat from daily life, or the allure of the unexplained. Each finds themselves touched by the invisible, marked by the whispers, guided by shadows, and forever connected to the enduring mystery of Pinecrest Retreat. Glacierview Lodge rests at the edge of a frozen lake, its skeleton remains a stark silhouette against the snow-covered landscape. Once a place of warmth and laughter, the lodge now lies abandoned, the aftermath of a mysterious fire leaving only charred timbers and shattered windows. The ice on the lake reflects the cold light of the sun, casting long, distorted shadows across the ruins. Visitors who venture near the lodge often speak of a sense of unease that begins long before they reach the doors. The air is sharp and still, carrying a faint scent of smoke that has lingered for decades. Even the wind seems cautious, moving slowly through broken beams and collapsed walls. Each step toward the lodge is met with the crunch of frost beneath boots, echoing unnaturally across empty spaces. Inside, rooms are gutted and blackened, yet travelers report fleeting glimpses of flickering lights. As if the lodge were trying to remember the warmth it once held. Shadows shift across walls, not in rhythm with the wind or the movement of clouds, but with a deliberate, almost conscious intent. Reflections appear in shards of broken mirrors, sometimes showing figures that vanish when approached, leaving only the cold, empty air behind. Footsteps echo across fractured floors, startling even the most composed visitors. Doors, warped and hanging loosely, sometimes swing open or shut without cause. The lodge seems to breathe with a life of its own, each creak and groan a reminder that the memories of the past remain lodged within the charred walls. Some travelers feel a presence beside them, fleeting and intangible, as if the lodge itself were aware of their intrusion. Whispers drift faintly through the corridors, soft and almost indecipherable. Some visitors swear they carry warnings, urging them to leave before the light of dawn touches the frozen lake. The words are not always clear, but the sense of urgency is undeniable. Even those who dismiss the voices find themselves moving quickly, drawn to the exits by a subtle, irresistible pressure in the air. The pressure in the air grows stronger, a palpable force that threatens to consume them all. The remnants of the lodge tell a story of sudden calamity. Burned furniture and melted fixtures are frozen in time, standing as silent witnesses to a night that ended abruptly in smoke and fire. Windows, cracked and clouded with frost, frame the icy lake beyond, where snowdrifts have filled the space once occupied by gardens and pathways. The lodge feels suspended between past and present, a monument to tragedy that refuses to be forgotten. Figures are sometimes glimpsed moving within the shadows. A fleeting silhouette by a collapsed staircase. The reflection of someone standing where no one could possibly be. These apparitions vanish when attention is focused on them, leaving a chill in their wake and a lingering awareness of unseen observers. The lodge's atmosphere is heavy with time and memory. As though invisible eyes are examining every movement, every step. Compelling some to linger and urging others to retreat. At night, the lodge takes on a heightened intensity. Moonlight cuts through shattered windows, illuminating dust motes and fragments of wood that glint like distant stars. The frozen lake beyond mirrors the pale light, stretching endlessly. While the loggia's interior shifts subtly, as if reacting to the darkness. Whispers grow slightly louder, shadows elongate, and the sense of being watched becomes almost palpable. Those who spend hours in the lodge speak of time slipping away. Minutes stretch, and the boundary between past and present feels fragile. Sounds from long ago echo faintly among the charred walls. The lodge seems to exist simultaneously in two eras, bridging the moments of its vibrant life and the haunting emptiness of its aftermath. By dawn, the cold light of morning reveals the ruins in stark clarity. The frozen lake glimmers, untouched and silent, reflecting the skeletal remains of the lodge. Yet, even in daylight, the echoes of the past linger. The faint flicker of light, the shadow in a broken mirror, the whisper that brushes against the ear remain, a testament to the loggia's enduring presence. Glacierview Lodge is more than a ruin. It is a place where history and memory are entwined. Where the remnants of tragedy and the essence of life that once thrived continue to resonate. Visitors leave with the sense that the lodge watches, remembers, and holds its secrets close. Waiting for those who dare to step into its frozen, whispering halls. The lodge endures as a monument to loss. A space where the past refuses to fade. And where the whispers of the fire and the frozen lake continue to call out into the still air. Blackstone Chalet stands isolated among snow-covered peaks, its dark timber walls absorbing the muted light of winter afternoons. The building seems alive in the way it responds to each step, creaking and settling under even the lightest footfall. The scent of aged wood and cold air fills the hallways, carrying a quiet weight that makes visitors aware of every movement they make. The interior holds remnants of a life once bustling with activity. Ski racks lean against the walls, some still holding rusted poles, their metal tips echoing when brushed against the floor. Guests often report hearing these sounds at night, the scraping of poles against the timbered floors as if someone invisible retraces long-forgotten routines. The sound is faint yet deliberate, echoing through corridors and drawing attention to spaces that seem otherwise empty. Shadows gather in corners, pooling near doorways and under staircases. In certain angles of light, these shadows form shapes reminiscent of faces, fleeting and elusive. Those who try to look directly at them often find only empty space, yet the sensation of being watched remains. A chill brushes the skin, subtle at first, then insistent, suggesting a presence that observes without approaching. The rooms vary in character, some offering warmth from old, unused fireplaces, while others remain cold and still, untouched by sunlight. Dust gathers on furniture and window sills. But in the quiet hours of the night, the air seems to move with intention. Visitors feel a subtle pressure, the sense that the chalet itself is aware of their presence. Noting each step, each pause, each hesitant glance. Windows frame the surrounding landscape in sharp contrasts of white snow and dark forest. At dusk, the shadows outside stretch long, blending with the Kalita's interior corners, making it difficult to distinguish between natural and spectral movements. Those who linger near the windows sometimes glimpse fleeting figures among the trees, vanishing when approached, leaving only the whisper of wind through the branches. Upstairs, the hallways narrow and twist, lined with doors that lead to bedrooms once occupied by families seeking winter recreation. Guests report the sensation of being followed as they walk these corridors, the faint creak of footsteps just behind them, matching their pace without ever catching up. Doors open and close on their own, hinges groaning as if reluctant to disturb the lingering presence within. The dining area remains largely intact, tables set long ago with simple plates and cutlery now dulled with age. Yet visitors describe hearing the clink of utensils against dishes late at night, faint and rhythmic, echoing as if someone unseen is enjoying a meal long forgotten. The sensation is more than sound, it carries a feeling of anticipation, a quiet energy that fills the space and heightens awareness of every corner and shadow. In the loft, beams of moonlight cut through broken panes, illuminating the dust motes that drift lazily in the air. The play of light and shadow creates illusions that toy with the eyes. Figures seem to appear and retreat just at the edge of vision, always vanishing when looked at directly. Guests often experience a tension between curiosity and apprehension, drawn to see more yet wary of what might reveal itself. The exterior of Blackstone Chalet is equally compelling. Snow drifts press against its walls, wind howling through gaps in the timber, carrying distant sounds from the surrounding mountains. At night, the lodge is a silhouette against the frozen landscape, a dark monolith that seems to absorb the glow of lanterns and stars alike. Even from outside, some report glimpsing movement within the windows, shadows that do not align with any human occupant. Those who stay overnight speak of restless sleep, haunted by sounds of shuffling, soft whispers, and doors that move without touch. The air is heavy with anticipation, as though the chalet waits silently to test those who enter, observing reactions and guiding perceptions. Even when left alone, the sensation lingers, a subtle insistence that the building and its shadows are more than inert structures. Blackstone Chalet's history adds to its mystique. Once a lively retreat for winter adventurers, it fell into disuse. After a series of unexplained accidents and disappearances. Locals speak of voices carried on the wind. And travelers report glimpses of figures in clothing that seems out of time. Appearing near windows or standing at the end of hallways. The combination of isolation, cold, and the presence of something intangible creates an environment that is unforgettable for anyone who dares to enter. Visitors leave with impressions that linger long after their departure. The creak of timber. The fleeting shadows. And the feeling of being watched embed themselves into memory. A reminder that Blackstone Chalet is more than just an abandoned building. It is a living narrative of past lives. Echoing through every hallway, corner, and room. Inviting curiosity while testing courage. Dark against the snow, a place where history, isolation, and the unexplained converge. They hold presence, awareness, and stories waiting to be witnessed, quietly demanding attention and respect from all who enter its frozen, shadowed halls. Hollow Peak Lodge sits atop a windswept mountain, its timbered facade weathered by decades of snow and frost. The surrounding slopes glimmer white under moonlight. Yet a lingering sense of unease clings to the lodge. A shadow of its former vitality. Inside, the halls stretch long and narrow, lined with ornate wood paneling dulled by time. The faint scent of pine lingers, mingling with the cold air that seems to seep from the walls themselves. Chains rattle in the empty basements, echoing through corridors as if footsteps were following. Visitors often pause, straining to locate the source, yet no one appears. The sound seems alive, resonating from within the structure itself. Figures emerge in the peripheral vision of those who dare to explore. They are vague shapes, moving silently along the hallways or hovering near staircases. Their presence is fleeting, leaving behind only the sensation of being watched. Eyes seem to follow every movement, yet when confronted directly, the figures vanish as if swallowed by the shadows. The lodge has a peculiar way of interacting with its guests. Clothing tugs subtly as people walk through rooms. As though invisible hands reach for them. And doors sometimes open or close without cause. The sensation is never threatening, but it carries an undercurrent of tension. A reminder that the lodge is not simply a building of wood and stone. It has a presence, a memory that clings to those who enter. Lighting plays a key role in the atmosphere. Dim sconces cast long shadows across hallways. While moonlight spilling through cracked windows illuminates rooms in a ghostly glow. Dust motes drift lazily in the light, yet the shadows they create sometimes appear to move independently. Stretching into shapes that mimic human figures. The play of light and dark fosters a sense of disorientation. Making familiar spaces feel unfamiliar and strange. The lodge's architecture enhances the sense of mystery. Narrow staircases twist unexpectedly, and long corridors seem to extend beyond logical dimensions. Rooms mirror each other in subtle ways, confusing even the most observant visitors. Mirrors reflect not only the living but sometimes the faint outlines of shapes that do not belong. It is as if the building itself conspires to create unease, blending reality with illusion in every corner. Guests often describe a cold that is impossible to escape. Even near fireplaces, the air carries a chill that penetrates deep into bones. Breath clouds in the hallways and fogs glasses as if the temperature is suspended in some unnatural state. This cold amplifies the sense of isolation, reminding visitors that Hollow Peak Lodge exists in a world apart, governed by its own rules. Sounds are heightened in this environment. Footsteps echo endlessly on wooden floors, even when none are present. Doors creak as if responding to unseen forces. And the wind whistles through cracks in the walls with a voice that mimics human whispers. Sometimes laughter or sobbing drifts from the distance, indistinct and haunting, creating a narrative of unseen lives lingering within the structure. The Loggia's history adds weight to its present. A series of unexplained deaths decades ago left marks that are still felt today. Guests report the sensation of being followed, or of unseen eyes tracking their movements. The weight of past tragedies seeps into the present, intertwining with the Loggia's physical environment to create a space where the boundary between life and memory is tenuous. Visitors often note an unusual perception of time within the lodge. Hours can pass in moments, and familiar routes through the hallways may suddenly feel longer or shorter. This distortion adds to the sensation of disorientation, leaving guests unsure of their location or the sequence of events. The lodge seems to exist in a realm slightly offset from the ordinary, where reality bends in subtle yet unnerving ways. Even the furnishings contribute to the atmosphere. Tables and chairs are coated with dust, yet they appear recently disturbed. Curtains hang heavy and stiff, swaying slightly without cause. Chandeliers glimmer faintly, reflecting light in patterns that suggest movement where none exists. Every object seems to carry its own history, infused with echoes of laughter, sorrow, and lingering presence. Exploring Hollow Peak Lodge requires both courage and curiosity. Every hallway, room, and stairwell offers a glimpse into the Loggia's complex relationship with the past. Guests find themselves drawn to spaces that feel alive, as if the building itself seeks to communicate. The combination of cold, shadows, and subtle movement cultivates a heightened awareness, sharpening senses and deepening the experience of mystery. Exploring Hollow Peak Lodge requires both courage and curiosity. Nightfall intensifies the Loggia's presence. Moonlight streaming through windows casts elongated shadows across floors and walls. The cold becomes more pronounced, and distant sounds of chains or footsteps resonate with a clarity that is both mesmerizing and unsettling. Figures are seen more clearly in the half-light, yet always remain just out of reach, leaving guests to wonder whether they are truly seen or merely imagined. Ultimately, Hollow Peak Lodge is more than a structure, it is a vessel for history, memory, and unseen life. Its corridors, halls, and rooms are imbued with stories that transcend the physical. Every visitor leaves with a sense of awe and apprehension, carrying memories of fleeting shadows, tugging clothing, and the distant echo of chains. The lodge invites exploration but rewards it with experiences that linger, a haunting testament to a place where the past refuses to remain silent. Between the ordinary and the extraordinary. A place where time, perception, and memory converge. And the intangible forces that dwell within. That is alive with secrets and silent stories waiting to be discovered. Icewind Chalet perches on a remote ridge where the coldest winds slice across the mountain peaks. Snow drifts curl around the structure in endless waves, carrying the sharp scent of ice and frost. The air is thin and biting, and the vast expanse of white stretches beyond the horizon, offering a stark solitude that can be both beautiful and unsettling. At first glance, the chalet appears inviting. Its wooden beams and stone foundation speak of warmth and shelter, promising respite from the harsh elements. Yet those who cross its threshold quickly sense a change. The atmosphere within is charged, as if the building itself is aware of every footstep and movement. Doors open and close without warning, sometimes in the middle of a hallway, leaving visitors startled and unsure of what they witnessed. Shadows gather in corners, stretching along the walls in unnatural ways. Shadows move with intention, lingering where attention is drawn, then retreating when approached. Some guests have described the feeling of being followed, the weight of unseen eyes tracing their movements as they explore the rooms. Figures appear pale and indistinct, pacing silently through the halls, only to vanish when one tries to meet their gaze. The temperature inside the chalet fluctuates unpredictably. Warmth radiates from the hearths and radiators, yet sudden gusts of icy air seem to seep from the walls themselves. Travelers feel a chill that is not from the weather outside, a penetrating cold that lingers and makes the skin prickle. The combination of the wind, the shadows, and the inexplicable noises creates an environment where time itself seems to slow, every second stretched by anticipation and unease. Windows frame the endless mountains beyond, reflecting the brilliant white snow during the day and the dim, silvery light of moon and stars at night. Reflections sometimes reveal more than the landscape, hinting at movements that do not belong to any living being. Guests have glimpsed fleeting silhouettes outside, standing on balconies or near the ridge, only to find empty snowbanks when investigated. The cold night air carries distant whispers that are both familiar and strange, teasing the senses and drawing attention to the unseen. Within the rooms, ordinary objects take on a strange life. Chairs may shift slightly between moments. And personal belongings sometimes appear in unexpected places. Footsteps echo across wooden floors where no one treads. And the soft hum of the wind becomes a voice that seems to carry intent. Some who have stayed overnight report waking to find doors ajar, beds slightly disturbed, and the feeling of an unseen presence at the edge of their vision. The chalet's hallways are long and twisting, lined with aged wood and frosted windows. Light from lamps casts uneven shadows, and corners appear deeper than they should, as if the architecture itself has been warped by the presence that inhabits it. At times, the shadows coalesce into more defined forms, indistinct figures that move with purpose, pacing, watching, and retreating into darkness when noticed. The sensation is not malevolent, yet it evokes a deep and primal awareness of the unknown. Outside, the mountains loom, silent and imposing, their frozen slopes reflecting the relentless wind. The snow drifts are marked by tracks that appear and disappear without explanation, footprints that suggest others have passed through. Yet no travelers are seen. The wind carries sounds that seem impossibly a faint laughter, the snap of distant branches, whispers that echo across the ridges and into the chalet itself. The environment interacts with the building in a way that feels almost alive, as if the mountains and the chalet are entwined in a delicate, eerie balance. Visitors often describe a feeling of being drawn to certain areas within the chalet. Hallways that seem ordinary at first become corridors of anticipation, guiding explorers toward rooms where the cold is more pronounced, where shadows linger longer, and where figures appear with a clarity that is both mesmerizing and unnerving. The chalet seems to respond to curiosity, allowing glimpses of its mysteries while preserving the majority of its secrets. Night at Icewind Chalet is the most intense. The darkness presses in from all sides, muffling sound and altering perception. Shadows lengthen, figures appear more defined, and the wind carries voices that beckon or warn, leaving the traveler in a heightened state of alertness. Movement becomes cautious, each step considered, as the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural blur. The sensation of being observed never leaves, and the smallest sounds take on immense significance. Icewind Chalet is a place where the cold is more than temperature, where the wind carries more than air. Where the wind carries more than air. Every hallway, room, and window offers a story, written in shadows, whispers, and fleeting figures. Guests leave with lasting impressions, carrying the weight of the Kalita's mysteries with them. The building itself stands as a sentinel atop the ridge, its walls and halls harboring secrets that remain hidden yet ever present, a monument to the enduring enigma of Icewind Chalet. Snowveil Lodge sits high above a steep, snow-covered slope, its timbered walls standing firm against the biting winter wind. The lodge has long been a landmark for skiers seeking adventure. Yet it carries a chilling reputation. Several who once descended the slope were never seen again. leaving the area wrapped in whispered warnings and uneasy curiosity. Visitors approaching the lodge often feel the air shift as they climb the final stretch of icy path. The wind carries more than frost, echoing faintly with sounds that do not belong to the mountain. Some speak of hearing screams, sharp and fleeting, carried across the snow as if the slopes themselves are crying out in memory of the lost. The sound fades before it can be located, leaving only the stark whiteness of the landscape and the lodge looming above. Inside, Snowveil Lodge is a blend of rustic charm and icy silence. Hallways stretch into dim corners, and the scent of pine and aged wood lingers faintly despite the cold that seeps in through every crevice. When approached, these apparitions vanish, leaving only the cold air and an almost tangible emptiness where they had stood. The temperature within the lodge fluctuates without explanation. Rooms may feel comfortably warm for moments, then drop suddenly, as if an unseen presence brushes past. Visitors describe the sensation of the air itself being alive, a shifting weight pressing against their skin and brushing against their senses. It is a reminder that Snowveil Lodge is not merely a building, but a place where the past lingers in invisible ways. Many have tried to explore the upper floors, following hallways to rooms left abandoned for decades. The furniture is coated in frost, and the windows frame the endless slopes outside. Shadows twist along the walls, never still, as though the lodge is breathing quietly, responding to the movement of its guests. Some have felt taps or brushes on their shoulders when no one is near, subtle and fleeting, yet enough to send hearts racing. The loggia's history is etched into the walls in ways that are both physical and intangible. Photographs hang crookedly, depicting skiers frozen in mid-descent, the eyes of some seeming to follow anyone who passes by. Fireplaces, once roaring with warmth, now sit cold and empty, yet the echoes of crackling flames seem to whisper faintly when the wind is just right. Every corner carries a story, and every corridor seems to hold its own memory of what transpired here. Outside, the slopes are breathtaking, blanketed in untouched snow, yet they carry an almost oppressive weight. Travelers often report the sensation of being watched, of footprints appearing and disappearing on the snow as though invisible skiers glide past without disturbing the surface. The echoes of lost journeys reverberate faintly across the mountainside, mingling with the natural sounds of wind and falling snow, creating a harmony that is both beautiful and unnerving. At night, Snowveil Lodge transforms entirely. Moonlight casts long, distorted shadows across the walls, and the wind through broken shutters carries the sharp cry of the mountain. Figures sometimes appear at the edge of hallways, watching silently, their presence sensed more than seen. Guests describe hearing faint voices calling names, soft and distant, carried through the corridors like whispers trapped between worlds. Each sound is a reminder of those who vanished, leaving their stories embedded in the lodge itself. The balconies offer a chilling perspective of the slopes below. Even in clear weather, the air seems to shimmer with movement that is not natural. Skiers from another era appear momentarily, suspended in mid-descent, then vanish without a trace. The snow itself seems to hold memories, shifting and settling in patterns that reflect long-forgotten paths. It is as if the mountain and the lodge conspire to keep the stories of the missing alive, visible only to those who dare to witness them. Despite its eerie reputation, Snowveil Lodge draws visitors seeking the thrill of its mysteries. Some come to feel the cold brushes and fleeting presences, while others are captivated by the beauty and isolation of the mountain. Few leave unchanged. The lodge imprints itself on memory, blending all with unease. Blending all with unease. The whispers, shadows, and sudden chills linger long after departure, a reminder that Snowveil is not merely a structure on a slope, but a living archive of loss, endurance, and the unseen forces that cling to the mountain. A reminder that Snowveil is not merely a structure on a slope, but a living archive of loss, endurance, and the unseen forces that cling to the mountain. but a living archive of loss, endurance, and the unseen forces that cling to the mountain. As the sun rises and the day begins, the lodge settles once more into silence. The slopes stretch endlessly beneath, pristine yet heavy with history. The lost remain on the edges of vision, the air shifts as though breathing. And Snowvale Lodge watches, patient and eternal. Visitors descend the mountain, glancing back at the dark timbered walls. Sensing that the lodge remembers each step, each presence, and each whispered name. It endures as a sentinel over the slopes, a place where the past lingers, frozen yet alive. And where the mysteries of disappearance and shadow await the next to arrive. Frost Hollow Lodge rests deep within a valley, surrounded by jagged peaks that seem to pierce the gray sky. The snow lies thick all year, and dense fog often clings to the slopes, weaving between trees and enveloping the lodge in a perpetual, cold silence. The air carries a biting chill, sharp against the skin, and every sound seems muted, swallowed by the heavy blanket of winter. The lodge itself is built of dark timber, aged and weathered, with stone foundations that sink into the frozen earth. Windows, many frosted over, frame the surrounding wilderness, reflecting the white expanse outside. And casting dim light into the long hallways. The floors creak with the weight of footsteps. Yet there are times when the sound of movement is felt without being heard. Visitors speak of whispers that drift through the empty rooms, soft and urgent, calling their names in tones that seem almost human. The sound is fleeting, appearing in corners where no one stands, echoing down hallways that lead to rooms that have been abandoned for years. The voices do not rise above a whisper, but their persistence unnerves even the most seasoned traveler, tugging at the edges of perception and imagination. In the common areas, the lodge feels alive with subtle motion. The faint smell of wood smoke lingers, though the fireplaces remain cold. Some guests have reported feeling the brush of unseen hands against their skin, icy and heavy. As if the past itself reaches through time to make contact. The sensation is fleeting but undeniable, leaving a chill that spreads deeper than the winter air. The upper floors are narrower, lined with guest rooms whose doors groan when opened, revealing spaces preserved in near abandonment. Dust layers the furniture, yet the air feels stirred, disturbed by forces unseen. Shadows gather near the walls, forming shapes that bend the eye and create the illusion of movement. The more one tries to focus on these forms, the more elusive they become, always at the edge of sight, a subtle reminder that Frost Hollow Lodge is not merely an empty building. Windows on the upper levels reveal the surrounding fog as a living entity, curling around the structure and muting the sounds of the valley below. At night, the moonlight barely penetrates, casting dim, shifting patterns across the floors. Guests have glimpsed figures standing outside, half shrouded in mist, and when approached, they vanish without trace. The fog seems to carry secrets, wrapping the lodge in an atmosphere of mystery that deepens with each passing hour. The loggia's history adds weight to its present presence. Once a bustling retreat for those seeking the solace of winter, Frost Hollow fell into decline. Local accounts speak of travelers who never returned from excursions into the surrounding peaks, their fates unknown. These stories contribute to the loggia's reputation, amplifying the sensations of unease that visitors report today. Even the sound of footsteps feels distorted. A single step can echo like many. Or sometimes steps are felt behind a guest without a corresponding sound. The mind struggles to reconcile the tangible and the unseen, leaving a sense of disorientation that heightens every shadow and whisper. In the dining hall, silverware occasionally rattles against dishes. And chairs shift slightly. As if someone is still present even when the room appears empty. Frost Hollow Lodge is a place where perception bends. Clocks seem to lag or freeze, and time itself takes on an irregular pace. And whether the things they witness are memory, imagination, or something far stranger. Guests often find themselves questioning how long they have been in the building. And whether the things they witness are memory, imagination, or something far stranger. Outside, the snow continues to fall softly, muffling sounds and blurring the edges of the forest and mountains. The lodge seems isolated even further, a dark timbered figure surrounded by endless white, its presence both inviting and foreboding. Visitors feel a pull to explore its hallways, driven by curiosity and an instinctive awareness that the building holds stories and remnants of lives long past. Those who leave Frost Hollow Lodge carry more than memories of cold and snow. They bring the echo of whispers, the sensation of shadows moving just out of sight, and the awareness that unseen hands brushed past them in the hallways. These impressions linger, reminding each traveler that the lodge is not only a place of winter solitude, but also a keeper of quiet, persistent mysteries that remain long after the fog clears. Frost Hollow Lodge remains shrouded in fog and silence, perched in the valley as it has for decades. Each visitor adds to its layered presence, a tapestry of experiences woven into the timber, stone, and snow. The lodge watches, listens, and endures, a testament to the strange, unseen forces that can inhabit a place, shaping perception and lingering in memory long after the journey ends. Winter Spire Lodge perches on a craggy mountainside, its silhouette sharp against the winter sky. The peaks surrounding it rise like jagged teeth, constantly battered by sudden storms that can appear without warning. Snow swirls violently around the lodge, sometimes so thick that the building seems to float amidst a white void, isolated from the world below. Inside, the air carries a chill that seeps into every corner. The hallways are lined with dark timber, polished long ago to a deep shine that now reflects flickering lights in unnatural ways. Travelers often pause, eyes widening, unsure if what they see is light or shadow, real or imagined. Figures manifest in old ski gear, frozen in poses as if mid-stride, silently observing those who enter. Their expressions are impossible to read, their movements deliberate yet subtle. Sometimes they vanish when approached, melting into walls or dissipating into the cold air. The sense of being watched never fades, lingering like the low hum of wind through icy pinnacles outside. Time inside Winter Spire Lodge behaves strangely. Visitors have reported clocks that twist hours into eternity. A single hour may stretch indefinitely, while minutes vanish without notice. The lodge seems to distort perception, creating a dreamlike environment. Guests leave with memories that feel both immediate and distant, as if they had lived another life entirely within the building's walls. The architecture of the lodge enhances this disorientation. Narrow staircases twist unexpectedly, leading to rooms that feel simultaneously familiar and alien. Long corridors stretch further than logic allows, with hallways appearing to bend in subtle, impossible ways. Mirrors reflect not only those who walk by but sometimes the faint outlines of figures that belong to another time, another era of the loggia's history. Sounds are heightened in the cold, silent spaces. Footsteps echo along wooden floors, often when no one walks nearby. Doors creak gently, opening or closing without cause. Occasionally, distant laughter or soft whispers drift through the halls, seeming to emanate from the very walls themselves. Every sound carries weight, layering a tapestry of tension and curiosity over every moment spent inside Winter Spire Lodge. Visitors often describe a sensation of motion within the building. Chairs may shift slightly, tables tilt as if nudged by invisible hands. And doors seem to breathe, opening a fraction when no one approaches. Even the fire in the main hall flickers with a life of its own, casting shadows that appear to move independently, creating forms that resemble long-forgotten skiers or explorers wandering the halls. The lodge has a history as cold and mysterious as the mountains that cradle it. Stories of sudden disappearances, accidents, and unexplained occurrences have long circulated among locals. These accounts intertwine with the lodge itself, forming a presence that is almost tangible. Guests often feel a weight upon entering, an awareness that the building is not just a structure but a keeper of memory, emotion, and unfinished tales. Lighting plays a key role in the loggia's unsettling atmosphere. Candles flicker in sconces, yet some flames bend toward the observer, casting elongated shadows that seem to stretch and twist along the walls. Moonlight pours through tall windows, illuminating dust motes that drift in ways that defy natural currents. The interplay of light and dark transforms ordinary hallways into realms of uncertainty, where every corner may hide a figure or a secret. The loggia's furnishings contribute to the eerie experience. Antique skis lean against walls. Coats hang as though recently worn. Yet everything is coated with a fine layer of frost. Tables and chairs are positioned as if awaiting guests who will never arrive. Rugs are threadbare. Their patterns distorted over decades. Yet somehow they retain the impression of countless footsteps that have passed over them. Outside, the storms rage with sudden ferocity, snow and wind battering the exterior. And yet inside, the lodge seems to exist in its own dimension. The cold penetrates deeper than the weather should allow, settling in bones and minds alike. Every exploration of Winterspire Lodge is both a journey and a test. Hallways, staircases, and rooms appear alive, responding to those who wander their paths. Ghostly figures, shifting light, and the manipulation of time converge to create an experience that feels almost cinematic, a blend of fear and fascination. Guests are drawn to spaces that feel sentient, as though the building itself observes, interacts, and remembers every visitor who dares to enter. Night amplifies the loggia's presence. Shadows stretch longer. The cold seems to thrum with a life of its own. Snow outside glistens under the moon. Yet inside, the hallways pulse with stories untold. With unseen eyes following, with the weight of history pressing quietly but insistently on every step. Ultimately, Winterspire Lodge is not merely a building, it is a realm of memory. It is a realm of memory, mystery, and subtle terror. Its corridors, halls, and rooms are imbued with layers of perception that blur reality and illusion. Every visitor leaves changed, carrying impressions of figures in ski gear, time stretched into infinity. And the faint glow of ghostly lights along frosted hallways. The lodge invites exploration but rewards it with an experience that lingers, a haunting testament to a place where winter never truly ends. And where the mountains hold secrets just beyond sight. Winterspire Lodge remains a monument to the intersection of nature, memory, and the unknown. Its halls echo with footsteps, lights dance without source, and shadows move with intent. Travelers who enter must navigate not only the physical space but also the intangible presence that saturates every corner. It is a place where history, perception, and mystery converge, leaving all who enter with a sense of awe, unease, and enduring fascination. Black Peak Chalet perches on a jagged ridge, its wooden beams frost-covered and windows clouded with ice. The structure appears abandoned, yet an unmistakable energy lingers in every corner. The mountains surrounding the chalet rise sharply, their slopes carved by winter storms and years of snow. Silent witnesses to the mysteries that dwell within and around the building. Travelers approaching the chalet often describe a sense of anticipation mixed with unease. The snow crunches underfoot, carrying no footprints other than their own, yet the distant sound of skis gliding across powder drifts through the air. The echoes are precise, crisp, and unaccountable, as if invisible skiers descend the empty slopes in a rhythm that no living being could maintain. Inside, the chalet is a labyrinth of wooden corridors and high-ceilinged rooms. The cold penetrates deeply, chilling the skin and settling into the bones. Icy drafts appear in places that should be sheltered, slipping through walls and ceilings as if guided by an unseen hand. Shadows dart across the walls, moving with a speed and unpredictability that defies explanation. They gather in corners and stairwells, sometimes coalescing into humanoid shapes before dissolving into darkness. sometimes coalescing into humanoid shapes before dissolving into darkness. Guests report the sensation of being watched from every angle. The hallways echo faint footsteps that are not their own. Chairs creak as if someone has just settled into them. Doors open slowly on their own, then close with a force that rattles the wooden frames. The sounds build a sense of presence that is tangible, yet impossible to locate. Balconies offer sweeping views of the surrounding peaks, framed by jagged cliffs and frozen ridges. Travelers have reported seeing figures clinging to the railings, silhouetted against the moonlight and snow. The shapes are fleeting and indistinct, sometimes visible for only a moment before vanishing completely, leaving the mind to wrestle with the tension between reality and imagination. The sensation of vertigo accompanies these sightings, as if the very air around the balcony resists human presence. The rooms of Black Peak Chalet are lined with remnants of a past life. Furniture is coated with frost, untouched yet somehow shifted. Tables and chairs occupy slightly different positions with each visit. At night, these echoes intensify, mingling with the sighing of the wind to create an auditory landscape that is both eerie and mesmerizing. Lighting within the chalet is minimal, the pale glow from moonlight through frosted windows casting elongated shadows. The interplay of light and dark distorts perception, making familiar spaces seem unfamiliar. Hallways bend and corners deepen unexpectedly, creating a sense of disorientation that heightens with each step. Even those familiar with the layout describe moments of sudden uncertainty, feeling drawn toward spaces that seem alive with anticipation. Cold seems to have weight here, pressing against travelers as they move from room to room. It gathers in corners, thickening near doorways and windows. Some report the feeling of invisible hands brushing their arms or resting on their shoulders, brief touches that vanish before they can respond. The combination of the temperature, the sounds, and the shadows generates a heightened awareness, a mixture of dread and fascination that holds visitors in place and draws them deeper into the chalet. Outside, the mountain winds scream across the ridge, carrying snow and ice into every crevice. The peaks loom, silent yet imposing, their presence almost sentient. Footprints in the snow sometimes appear beyond the chalet, leading across slopes that have not been traveled for years. Travelers following these paths encounter nothing, yet the impression of movement persists, as though the landscape itself participates in the mysteries of Black Peak Chalet. Nightfall intensifies the atmosphere. Shadows lengthen, figures become more pronounced, and the air thickens with the sensation of being observed. The distant sounds of skis, the creaking of furniture, and the fleeting figures on the balcony merge into a continuous experience. Time feels elastic, stretching and contracting with the rhythm of unseen activity, leaving visitors both alert and unnervingly vulnerable. Black Peak Chalet is a place where solitude and mystery converge. Its abandoned halls and frozen slopes hold echoes of the past. And traces of the unexplained. Every shadow, every gust of wind, and every sound is a reminder that the chalet is more than a bodega, it is a living presence. Shaped by its environment and the energies that linger within. Visitors leave with impressions that linger long after the snow has melted. Carrying with them the enigmatic memory of a place that defies both understanding and time. Avalanche Point Lodge perches precariously above a slope known for its deadly history. The mountain is steep and unforgiving, its snow-laden expanse concealing the dangers that have claimed lives over decades. Travelers who venture here are drawn by both the beauty and the eerie reputation that shrouds the lodge, a place where the echoes of past tragedies seem to linger in the cold, crisp air. Even when the day is calm and the sky is clear. Visitors report hearing the thunderous roar of snow tumbling down the mountainside. The sound seems to come from nowhere, carried across the still air with an intensity that sets the heart racing. There is no wind, no shifting clouds. Yet the avalanche's roar resonates through the lodge as though the mountain itself remembers each life lost on its slopes. Inside the lodge, the air is heavy with the scent of pine and aged timber. The walls are lined with photographs of skiers and mountaineers, some smiling in moments frozen long ago, others caught mid-descent, their eyes seeming to follow anyone who passes by. Figures sometimes appear near the windows, translucent and fleeting, staring down the slope as though waiting for something or someone. When approached, they vanish, leaving only the quiet hum of the lodge and a lingering chill. Guests often speak of sudden, inexplicable sensations. A cold draft may brush across the back of the neck. And for a moment, the warmth of the room feels stolen by unseen hands. Some feel compelled to move, to leave, guided by forces they cannot see, their steps carried along corridors that twist and turn in subtle ways. It is as if the lodge itself watches, anticipating the reactions of those within, gently steering them through its silent halls. The loggia's upper floors are a labyrinth of rooms once filled with laughter and conversation, now hushed by time and snowfall. Shadows shift along the walls, stretching unnaturally as if alive, responding to every movement. Travelers describe feeling a presence beside them, a subtle pressure urging them onward, even when no one else is near. At night, Avalanche Point Lodge becomes a place of heightened awareness. Moonlight casts stark patterns across the snow outside, illuminating the slope in sharp contrasts. The thundering sound of an avalanche may echo from the mountain, startling guests, only to fade into silence before its source can be identified. The lodge holds both the beauty and the terror of the mountain in a delicate, unsettling balance. Visitors who linger describe a strange connection to the lodge. The air seems heavier, time slows. And every creak of the floorboards feels significant. Some have attempted to photograph the interiors, only to find images blurred or showing fleeting silhouettes that were not visible to the naked eye. The lodge preserves these moments, capturing the intersection of human presence and the lingering memories of those who met the mountain's wrath. Outside, the slope stretches endlessly, pristine yet threatening. Tracks in the snow appear and disappear, as if made by invisible travelers who retrace paths long forgotten. The mountain seems to breathe with the rhythm of history, carrying with it whispers of past climbers, skiers, and wanderers who never returned. Each step across the snow feels weighted with unseen observation, a reminder that Avalanche Point Lodge is more than a bodega, it is a witness to both triumph and tragedy. Despite its chilling reputation, the lodge draws visitors seeking its mysteries and the thrill of the mountain. Some come to witness the ghostly apparitions. Others to feel the subtle pressures and drafts. The invisible guidance that urges them along certain paths. Few leave unchanged, for the lodge embeds itself in memory. The sounds, the shadows, and the sensations remain long after departure. A silent testament to the lives intertwined with the mountain's history. As dawn breaks over the slope, the snow glistens under the first rays of sunlight. The mountain stands quiet and serene, yet the lodge retains the stories of the night. Figures vanish into the light, footsteps fade from the corridors, and the air becomes still once more. Avalanche Point Lodge waits patiently, perched above the slope, a sentinel over the mountain. Where the echoes of the past continue to stir, unseen but ever present. Reminding all who arrive that some places hold memories that never truly fade. Silverpine Lodge sits perched on a remote mountain peak, its dark timbered silhouette standing stark against the ever-shifting sky. A narrow, winding path leads to its doors, twisting through dense pine forests and over jagged rocks, a journey that demands caution and respect. The air grows thinner with every step, crisp and biting, carrying the scent of snow and pine, mingled with something older, an almost imperceptible trace of the lodge itself. Inside, the halls of Silverpine are quiet. Yet the silence is rarely absolute. Travelers often report hearing soft singing drifting through the corridors late at night. The melody is faint and ethereal, haunting in its simplicity. Seeming to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. It is a sound that pulls at the mind, gentle yet insistent. Stirring memories and emotions that feel both familiar and strange. The lodge is a study in shadows. In the corners of dimly lit rooms, shapes linger, forming distorted faces. They seem to watch and wait, observing without presence, leaving behind an uneasy awareness of being seen. The shadows move subtly, shifting along the walls and floors, responding to light and sound. As if aware of those who walk the halls. Staircases echo in Silverpine Lodge, even when empty. Footsteps can be heard pacing the steps, slow and deliberate. Sometimes rising or falling in rhythm with the soft singing. Guests have climbed these staircases only to find them empty. Their own footsteps the only evidence of movement. The sound seemed to follow, echoing long after the traveler has paused or turned a corner. A persistent reminder that the lodge is not truly uninhabited. Windows frame the surrounding wilderness, where pine forests stretch endlessly and snow-dusted peaks rise into the clouds. The lodge appears isolated in both space and time, perched above the world below, yet alive with unseen forces. The walls hold stories, etched in the dark grain of timber and stone, whispers of those who have come before. The sense of history in the building is palpable, a weight that presses gently on the mind, blending with the natural majesty of its setting. Visitors often describe the feeling of being followed, a subtle pressure in the air as though unseen eyes track every movement. A chair might appear angled differently, or a table's surface might bear faint impressions where none should exist. These minor disturbances accumulate, creating a sense that the lodge is aware, responsive, and subtly alive. The lodge's upper floors are narrower and colder, lined with guest rooms that have remained largely unchanged for decades. Curtains hang thick and heavy, dampened by the constant mountain mist, and the scent of aged wood permeates the air. The singing is often strongest, seeming to emanate from the walls themselves. Guests report glimpses of figures at the edge of vision, standing silently, watching, or moving just out of reach. Guests report glimpses of figures at the edge of vision, standing silently, watching, or moving just out of reach. Even in the common areas, Silverpine Lodge retains an unsettling energy. The fireplace, though unlit, radiates warmth that feels more like presence than heat. Silverware clinks quietly in the kitchen, glasses shift imperceptibly on counters. And the floorboards hum faintly beneath bare feet. These phenomena are subtle, never overtly threatening, yet they create an awareness that the building is inhabited in ways that defy logic. Outside, the mountain winds whip through the trees, carrying snow and ice, the howls echoing across the peaks. The lodge stands firm, a sentinel among the mountains, its dark timbers contrasting sharply with the white landscape. From the windows, travelers can watch clouds rolling over the ridges, sunlight catching on distant slopes, yet the beauty carries an edge of unease. The beauty carries an edge of unease. Silverpine Lodge is a place where time bends. Hours can feel like minutes. Minutes like hours. Visitors lose track of the outside world. Drawn into the loggia's rhythms. Guided by its sounds and shadows. The singing and footsteps create a cadence that seems to exist outside ordinary time. A continuous undercurrent threading through the nights and hallways. The experience leaves travelers both fascinated and unsettled. Caught between curiosity and caution. When guests depart, they carry with them a lingering impression of Silverpine Lodge. The memory of shadows at the corners of rooms. The soft singing in the halls. The echo of footsteps from empty staircases. And the sensation of being quietly observed remain. Long after the journey ends. The lodge continues its silent vigil. On the peak, waiting for the next travelers to arrive. Its presence immutable, mysterious, and quietly alive. Frostfall Chalet rests deep within a canyon where the winter cold is trapped like a living entity. Snow drifts pile high against the mountainsides, and the wind howls through narrow crevices. Yet within the chalet, the air holds a still, brittle chill that seems untouched by the outside world. The canyon walls rise steeply around the building, casting long shadows that stretch across the frozen landscape. The approach to Frostfall is quiet, almost unnervingly so. Footsteps crunch on hard-packed snow, and the echo of each step seems swallowed by the canyon. Occasionally, a visitor notices a faint light flickering through frost-covered windows, though the chalet is long abandoned during much of the season. Shadows appear behind the icy glass, fleeting shapes that vanish when looked at directly. Inside, the atmosphere is dense with cold and anticipation. Doors slam violently without wind, startling anyone nearby. The sound reverberates through the wooden halls, carrying a weight that suggests more than a simple gust. The floors creak underfoot as though they are whispering memories of those who once walked here. Every corner holds the possibility of motion, a flicker of a figure, a hint of a presence lingering just beyond sight. Figures sometimes appear in frost-laden windows, frozen and motionless as if observing the interior silently. Some claim these shapes are indistinct, like shadows of former guests or lost travelers, their forms obscured by frost and darkness. Occasionally, eyes are glimpsed briefly, reflecting light in the dim halls, only to disappear the instant one tries to focus. The lodge seems to have a rhythm of its own, an invisible pulse that guides the perception of those within. Guests report feeling watched, a sensation that grows heavier with each passing moment. Even when the chalet is empty, there is a presence that seems to move with them. A subtle tug at a coat, a chill that brushes along the neck, or the soft sound of steps echoing behind. The architecture of Frostfall adds to the sense of unease. Narrow staircases twist unexpectedly, leading to rooms that feel both familiar and strange. Hallways bend at angles that seem impossible, and mirrors reflect not only the present but fleeting glimpses of what might have been. Each room tells a story, from worn furniture and frost-covered mantels to tables set as if awaiting guests who will never return. Light behaves strangely inside the chalet. Candles flicker with no discernible draft, casting elongated shadows that stretch across walls and ceilings. Moonlight filters through frost-laced windows, illuminating dust particles that seem suspended in the air, moving in patterns that defy the eye. These subtle shifts in light transform ordinary hallways into corridors of uncertainty, where every reflection and shadow seems alive. Visitors often describe a sensation of disorientation. Time itself appears to bend within Frostfall. Hours may feel like minutes. Or a single step from one end of a hallway to the other may seem to stretch interminably. This distortion amplifies the tension, leaving guests unsure of how long they have been inside or how many times they have passed the same hall. Sounds are heightened in the cold, empty spaces. Footsteps echo across floors, sometimes in response to movements that never occurred. The walls carry the faint hum of whispers, indiscernible voices that rise and fall like the wind outside. Occasionally, the low creak of a beam or the thump of a distant door is enough to make the heart quicken. Every sound contributes to the loggia's sense of presence, of history, and of lingering energy that refuses to rest. The furnishings and decor of Frostfall Chalet add another layer to its haunting nature. Chairs are slightly tilted, tables dusted with frost as if just used. And ski gear leans casually in corners, seemingly untouched for decades. The patterns on carpets are worn but suggest the passage of many feet. Each imprint telling a story of past visitors. Fireplaces are cold, yet some report a sudden warmth or the flicker of an unseen flame that casts shadows dancing along the walls. Storms outside intensify the lodge's atmosphere. Snow swirls around windows, gusts slam doors, and the canyon amplifies every sound. Yet within, the environment feels separate, a pocket where time slows, shadows lengthen, and the chill carries a consciousness of its own. The outside world is harsh and relentless, but inside, there is a haunting quiet, punctuated by phenomena that defy rational explanation. Nightfall brings the most intense experiences. Shadows lengthen, shapes appear more defined, and the chill grows sharper, as if the lodge inhales the cold and exhales it into the halls. Frost patterns form on windows, creating images that shift and change, sometimes resembling faces, sometimes abstract forms that tease the imagination. The sensation of being followed intensifies, and visitors report sudden drops in temperature, even in the warmest rooms. Frostfall Chalet is more than an abandoned winter lodge. It is a vessel of history, memory, and unexplained presence. Each hallway, room, and window holds fragments of stories, of figures glimpsed in frost, of time stretched beyond comprehension. The lodge interacts subtly with those who enter, shaping perception and heightening awareness of every sound, light, and shadow. Every visit leaves a lasting impression. Guests leave with memories of doors slamming without cause. Doors slamming without cause, figures in frost-covered windows. And the persistent feeling of being observed. The Loggia's presence lingers, a reminder of the Canona's cold grip. And the mysteries embedded in the walls. Where winter never truly ends, where shadows move in tandem with visitors. And where the past continues to whisper, long after footsteps fade. Frostfall Chalet endures as a monument to isolation and the unknown. It stands silently in its frozen canyon, a sentinel to the cold. Its halls filled with echoes of those who came before. Every corner, every creaking floorboard. Every corner, every creaking floorboard, every glint in the frost carries a story, an invisible presence, and an invitation to witness a place where the boundary between reality and the unseen grows thin. Wintervale Lodge sits atop a windswept ridge, its timbered walls dusted with snow that never seems to settle for long. The mountains surrounding it rise sharply, blanketed in ice and frost, their jagged peaks cutting into the sky. Travelers approaching the lodge are met with a sudden silence, a stillness that feels heavier than the cold air itself. Snowstorms often appear without warning, swallowing the landscape in a white haze, leaving those nearby disoriented and isolated. Inside, the lodge is a maze of shadowed corridors and high-ceilinged rooms. The scent of cold wood and faint pine lingers, yet no fire burns to warm the air. Footsteps echo against the floors, though sometimes they are not the footsteps of the living. Voices whisper secrets from empty rooms, murmurs that rise and fall like the wind outside, carrying words that seem both familiar and impossible to comprehend. Shadows glide across the floors, never solid, flickering along walls and ceiling beams as if moving with a will of their own. Travelers pause, uncertain if their eyes deceive them or if the lodge itself holds a consciousness. The feeling is palpable, an awareness that seems to follow each visitor, watching silently as they navigate the corridors. Even familiar spaces appear transformed, hallways elongating, corners darkening unexpectedly, and rooms shifting just enough to disturb the sense of security. Windows offer glimpses of snow-laden peaks and icebound trees, but the view is often obscured by sudden flurries that descend from a sky already heavy with clouds. The wind whistles through cracks in the walls, carrying the sound of whispers, footsteps, and fleeting laughter that vanishes as quickly as it comes. Each gust seems deliberate, as if the lodge itself is orchestrating the storm, guiding the experience of those who enter. Guests report furniture moving subtly, chairs tilting or sliding across floors with no visible cause. Doors creak open slowly, then shut with a finality that startles even the most stoic visitors. The effect is cumulative, a combination of sight, sound, and touch that makes the lodge feel alive, a space that is both guardian and observer, welcoming and warning in equal measure. The lodge's upper levels are where most encounters occur. Figures appear in the corners of hallways, pale and indistinct, often dissolving when approached. Travelers sometimes feel a presence at their side, guiding, restraining, or simply watching, an invisible companion that adds tension to each exploration. Rooms are lined with aged wood and frost-smeared windows, revealing landscapes frozen in time. Some guests claim to see their own reflections, distorted and altered, as if another self watches from within the glass. The walls seem to hum faintly with energy, resonating with the movement of those inside. Each step and each breath seems amplified, the lodge attuned to the presence of the living and the echoes of those long gone. Even the common areas, such as the dining hall and lounge, carry traces of the unseen. Chairs sway gently despite the absence of wind, tables bear impressions of objects that are not present. And the faint smell of wood smoke drifts without fire. Travelers describe moments of vertigo, a sensation of being drawn toward one side of the room or another. As if the lodge itself guides their movement with intention. Shadows deepen, and the wind carries voices more distinctly, whispers that move from room to room in a pattern too deliberate to be random. Some stand at windows, watching silently, vanishing the instant attention turns toward them. Footsteps on the snow outside leave patterns that change with every observer. Travelers who walk the surrounding paths report feeling drawn back toward the lodge, as if unseen hands guide them. As if unseen hands guide them, their sense of direction distorted by the loggia's will. Snowstorms intensify, obscuring landmarks, yet always revealing Wintervale as the focal point, a beacon in the frozen landscape that cannot be ignored. Wintervale Lodge is a place of contradictions. It is beautiful and terrifying, silent yet full of sound. Empty yet alive. Every visitor leaves with memories of whispers, shifting shadows. And a sensation that the lodge watched and remembered their presence. Its halls are steeped in mystery, its corridors alive with unseen energy. And its very structure seems to pulse with the stories of those who have passed through and those who remain. To step inside Wintervale Lodge is to enter a world caught between reality and perception. Every gust of wind, every echoing footstep, every fleeting shadow contributes to an experience that is immersive and inescapable. Travelers do not merely visit the lodge, they become part of its history, woven into the fabric of its frozen walls and echoing halls, leaving behind traces that may never fade. Crystal Peak Lodge rests at the edge of a frozen waterfall. Its walls framed by ice-encrusted cliffs and snow-laden pines. The lodge has stood empty for decades, abandoned after a series of unexplained accidents that left visitors wary of its halls. The frozen waterfall nearby glints in the winter sun. Beautiful yet foreboding, its constant roar muffled by layers of ice. Creating a silence that feels almost unnatural. Those who approach the lodge often speak of the first sensation that strikes them upon entry, a cold that is sharper than the mountain air itself. Footsteps echo in the main hall, hollow and deliberate, yet when one turns to see, the space is empty. Hallways stretch into shadow, lined with faded photographs of visitors from years past. Figures are sometimes glimpsed at the edges of vision, standing in doorways or near staircases. When approached, they vanish, leaving only the faint scent of pine and a lingering chill. The lodge seems to have a presence of its own, aware of those who enter and responding in subtle ways. Its movements are measured and deliberate. A cold mist often gathers along the floors and stairwells, curling around ankles and drifting upward as if searching for something. Guests report that it seems to move with intent, shifting when no wind blows, retreating when followed, and sometimes forming shapes that vanish when directly observed. This ethereal fog enhances the feeling that the lodge itself is alive, watching and waiting, a silent sentinel over the frozen landscape. The main hall holds the weight of history. Furniture lies coated in frost. And chandeliers swing gently despite the stillness of the air. Some visitors have felt the pressure of unseen hands brushing against their shoulders. A reminder that the lodge retains the memory of those who once walked its floors. Every step taken echoes through time. And the building seems to remember each movement, each sound, each moment of intrusion into its solitude. Rooms on the upper floors are cloaked in shadows, and the frozen panes of windows reflect figures that do not belong to the present. Guests describe seeing people standing in corners, their faces obscured by darkness, only to disappear when the gaze becomes direct. These glimpses provoke a mixture of awe and unease, a sensation that the lodge exists in a liminal space where past and present intersect. Outside, the frozen waterfall continues its silent descent, the ice cracking occasionally with a deep, resonant groan. The wind whistles through the surrounding cliffs, carrying fragments of sound that resemble voices, whispers almost imperceptible, yet enough to send shivers down the spine. Travelers speak of a sense of being observed, not by one presence, but by many, as though the lodge and the mountain itself are aware of every footstep. Visitors who linger in the hallways often feel time bending. Minutes stretch into what feels like hours, and the familiar rhythm of the day is suspended. This distortion adds to the sense of unease, as if the lodge itself dictates the passage of time, holding guests in a quiet suspension that mirrors the frozen landscape outside. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of mist, amplifies the feeling that Crystal Peak Lodge is a place apart, untouched by ordinary experience. The lodge draws a steady stream of curiosity seekers, historians, and those intrigued by the supernatural. Some arrive to document the phenomena, while others simply wish to witness the aura of mystery. Few leave without a lasting impression, for the echoes of footsteps, the fleeting figures, and the purposeful mist embed themselves in memory. Crystal Peak Lodge becomes more than a building, it is a vessel for stories, both tragic and enigmatic, preserved within its frost-covered walls. At dusk, the frozen waterfall glows with a pale light, and the lodge casts long shadows that stretch across the snow. Figures may appear in windows. And the cold mist gathers once more, flowing along the corridors as if patrolling its domain. The lodge waits, patient and silent, observing all who enter, guarding the memories of its past. Crystal Peak Lodge is a place where the line between reality and the unseen blurs. A location where the natural beauty of ice and snow meets the quiet, persistent presence of what remains after time has passed. Even as the sun dips behind the mountains, casting the lodge in twilight. Footsteps echo in empty halls. Figures appear and vanish. And the mist drifts with purpose. Crystal Peak Lodge stands as a testament to the frozen stillness of the landscape. And the restless energy of the stories it holds. Visitors depart carrying the weight of the experience. A reminder that some places do not simply exist in space, but live in memory, in shadow, and in the silent rhythms of the world around them. Icecliff Lodge stands at the edge of a jagged precipice, its dark silhouette outlined against the icy winds that sweep the mountains. The structure leans precariously, as if resisting the pull of gravity, its walls fractured and worn by decades of storms. Snow and frost cling to every surface, sparkling faintly in the weak sunlight, while clouds swirl endlessly around the peaks, casting shifting shadows across the frozen landscape. Travelers who venture along the narrow path to Icecliff Lodge describe a palpable sense of isolation. The air is sharp and cold, carrying the scent of ice and stone. Every step on the creaking boards of the lodge seems amplified, echoing into the vast emptiness beyond the cliff. Silence dominates, yet it is never complete. Faint sounds drift through the halls, soft at first, then growing into ghostly laughter that seems to circle and retreat, impossible to locate. The loggia's interior is a maze of dark hallways and broken rooms. Flickering lights appear and vanish without explanation, casting long, wavering shadows that stretch across floors and walls. Some of these shadows cling to corners, watching silently, their presence felt more than seen. Visitors often catch glimpses of figures at the cliff's edge through shattered windows, silhouettes that remain motionless yet intensely aware of those inside. Time within Icecliff Lodge behaves strangely. Minutes can stretch into hours, and hours vanish without record. Travelers report losing track of the day entirely, emerging from one hallway to find that much longer has passed than they could have imagined. This distortion creates a feeling of disorientation, a sense that the lodge exists partially outside ordinary reality, governed by its own rules of perception. The floors creak underfoot, the timber strain from years of snow and ice. A gust of wind might slam a door shut, or a loose shutter may bang against the frame. These sounds are sudden and startling, yet often fade as quickly as they arrive. At times, the echo of movement is heard when no one else is present, as though unseen inhabitants are pacing the halls, observing without intent to interact. Windows reveal the harsh beauty of the surrounding peaks, cliffs plunging into mist and frozen chasms. The views are breathtaking, yet tinged with unease. Clouds and snow obscure distances, creating illusions of shapes and movement among the ridges. Shadows seem to linger just beyond the cliff's edge. And travelers report a persistent sensation of being watched from above and below, as though the mountains themselves guard the lodge and its secrets. Rooms are sparse and aged, lined with timber darkened by years of frost and neglect. Some contain remnants of past visitors, objects left behind that feel out of place or strangely preserved. Footsteps and whispers are strongest in these spaces, the air thick with expectation and anticipation. The lodge seems to breathe with its own rhythm, a quiet pulse that synchronizes with the perception of those who wander its halls. Ghostly laughter is heard most clearly at night, carried by the wind that slips through broken windows and gaps in the walls. It can rise and fall, shifting from playful to menacing, always impossible to pinpoint. Lights flare in the corners of vision, flickering in unoccupied rooms, only to vanish when approached. The interplay of shadow, light, and sound creates a tense, immersive atmosphere, keeping visitors alert to the subtle movements around them. Even the air inside carries a sensation of chill beyond mere temperature. Cold brushes against the skin in hallways. Sometimes like a soft wind, sometimes like the touch of unseen fingers. This sensation leaves travelers aware of the loggia's presence. Tangible yet elusive. A constant reminder that Icecliff exists. Both as place and as enigma. The cliff itself is an extension of the loggia's power, a boundary between safety and the unknown. Shadows linger at this edge, motionless yet attentive, reflecting the same watchful presence that pervades the interior. The wind carries both the scent of snow and the faint echo of distant voices, as if the lodge is alive with the stories of those who have come before. Icecliff Lodge challenges perception, blending the natural dangers of its environment with the inexplicable phenomena that define its reputation. Each creaking board, flickering light, and drifting shadow forms a tapestry of experience that is at once beautiful and unsettling. Travelers leave with memories of ghostly laughter, distorted time, and the ever-present sensation of unseen observers, their minds imprinted with the loggia's haunting essence. Its presence is constant and enigmatic, waiting silently for the next travelers to approach, offering a glimpse into a world where time bends, shadows watch, and the cold wind carries the voices of the past. Shadowvale Lodge rests deep within a remote valley, encircled by towering pine forests that block out most of the daylight. The air is thick with the scent of damp earth and resin, carrying a weight that feels almost sentient. The forest seems to hold its breath, as if aware of the building hidden within its shadows. The exterior of the lodge is weathered by time and harsh winters. Wooden beams darkened by years of rain and snow lean slightly, yet the structure holds with a stubborn resilience. Windows are fogged and streaked, reflecting the dense forest in distorted patterns. Occasionally, a faint light glows from within, though no electricity runs through the abandoned halls. Inside, the lodge retains a chilling presence that visitors often describe as immediate and intense. Figures are reported pacing silently along corridors, glimpsed only out of the corner of the eye. They vanish the moment one attempts to look directly, leaving an echo of motion and a lingering unease. Shadows stretch unnaturally, moving with a rhythm that seems independent from any source of light. Doors open and close with no wind. The sound is sharp in the stillness, resonating through the wooden floors and high ceilings. Guests often describe a sensation that the lodge is aware of their presence, observing them with patience and intent. The weight of this awareness is subtle but persistent, pressing on the senses without a tangible form. The interior architecture contributes to the haunting atmosphere. Narrow staircases twist unexpectedly, leading to rooms that feel familiar yet strange. Hallways bend and stretch, reflecting a design that disorients those who enter. Mirrors hang in odd places, catching glimpses of movements that seem just beyond comprehension. Each room holds traces of past occupants, from dusty furniture to personal items left behind, frozen in time yet vibrating with unspoken energy. Light behaves unpredictably within Shadowvale Lodge. Faint sunlight filters through the dense trees outside, casting shifting patterns across floors and walls. Candlelight flickers when no candle burns, producing elongated shadows that stretch toward unseen corners. Every reflection in glass or polished wood seems to carry fragments of something more than mere reflection, fragments that tease the edge of perception. Visitors report an almost tactile sensation of being followed. A subtle tug at clothing, the whisper of movement behind, or the pressure of a presence brushing close enough to notice. The lodge seems to bend space and time in subtle ways, causing hallways to feel longer, rooms to feel narrower, and moments to stretch unnaturally. Each step through the lodge amplifies the sensation of walking through a place that is alive with unseen eyes. The ambient sounds heighten the feeling of unease. The creak of floorboards resonates like whispers. And doors shift slightly even without a draft. Occasionally, soft murmurs or sighs seem to emanate from the walls themselves. Faint and indecipherable, adding a spectral layer to the already tense atmosphere. Shadowvale Lodge's furnishings and layout add to its mysterious aura. Chairs are often slightly moved from their expected positions. Tables hold dust but appear subtly disturbed. And rugs show impressions of footsteps that have no apparent source. The architecture, combined with these details, makes each room feel as if it remembers every visitor. As if the building itself records events and movements over time. The forest surrounding the lodge seems to interact with the building. Pine needles rustle without wind, branches sway against the windows. And shadows flicker across the interior in patterns that appear to mimic the movement of those inside. Even the air carries an unusual chill, heavier and more concentrated than the outside temperature, as if the lodge itself exhales a cold breath into its halls. Nightfall intensifies the haunting qualities of Shadowvale Lodge. Darkness seeps in from the dense forest. And shadows deepen into forms that sometimes appear humanoid. Flickers of light from unseen sources create movement along walls. And reflections in windows sometimes show figures that vanish when approached. The lodge feels at once protective and predatory. As though it is aware of intruders yet not entirely hostile. Waiting to observe rather than confront. Guests often leave the lodge shaken, describing sensations that linger long after departure. Memories of figures glimpsed in peripheral vision. Of doors opening and closing by themselves. And of a pervasive awareness that the building watches and waits. The sensation is more than fear, it is the impression of interacting with a place that is conscious. A sentient structure that holds stories of countless presences within its walls. Shadowvale Lodge is more than an abandoned retreat in the forest. It is a living archive of echoes, movements, and shadows that defy conventional understanding. Every hallway, every room, every corner holds fragments of past experiences, both human and spectral. Time and space inside the lodge feel malleable, as if the building bends perception to reveal layers of reality unseen in the outside world. The lodge endures as a monument to isolation, memory, and the inexplicable. It stands silently among the towering pines, its presence acknowledged and recorded by those who dare enter. Shadowvale Lodge leaves an indelible impression on anyone who crosses its threshold, a reminder that some places are not merely structures, but entities in their own right, observing, waiting, and holding secrets in the silent rhythm of shadow and stone. Each visit to Shadow Vale Lodge becomes a story that merges with the loggia's own history. Figures pacing silently, doors opening with no wind, and the sensation of an aware presence are experiences that cannot be fully explained. The building itself becomes part of the narrative, a character that is both witness and participant. Shadow Vale Lodge remains, quietly but unmistakably, a place where the line between the seen and the unseen is not just blurred but entirely rewritten. Thank you, my dear friend, for wandering through the haunted abandoned ski lodges of Colorado after dark with me tonight. The mountains are beautiful, but the lodges perched among the peaks carry the weight of history, tragedy, and restless spirits. Some visitors leave shaken. Some never return. And some find themselves haunted long after the snow has melted. If you ever find yourself walking along these snowy peaks after nightfall, remember these tales. Step carefully, listen closely, and beware the whispers carried by the wind. Would you dare spend a night in one of these haunted lodges, or would you retreat to the warmth and safety of the valley below? Rest well, my friend, until our next journey into the unknown.